would you be and why? What kind of tree
Mm,
would you be and why?
If I were a tree,
Would you be an ornamental tree or a
I
fruit
would
tree or mighty oak or an evergreen?
yeah,
What kind of tree would you be
I
and
would
why?
be a giant redwood.
A giant, like a sequoia, one of those sequoia things.
Yeah, a redwood.
Are they red? Are they redwoods? I don't know.
I
Is it?
would be a, I don't know if a sequoia is a redwood. I'm not great
No.
at my tree knowledge, but I would be a giant redwood. And they're
You'd be a
humongous. They
giant.
live
You'd be a
forever.
giant tree, huh? A
Yeah, they
giant
live for
tree.
so long. Yeah.
Oh, you'd be a long lived tree is what you would
Hmm.
like a Joshua tree. You'd be the
Mm.
Joshua tree. Isn't that the
Mm.
oldest tree? It's a
Is it?
Joshua tree.
I don't like
Beautifully.
those at all.
Beautifully's here.
Good morning, beautifully. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Joshua tree. We do have some of those around here. They're not great. Their flowers are
Yeah,
really
not
interesting, but I don't think I want that. I don't need a flower. I don't need a
no.
fruit. I just want to
You wouldn't
exist
you
and
wouldn't want to be a
forever without being
dogwood,
too bothered.
a dogwood is so symbolic, right? It has like all the Christ stuff on it. You wouldn't want to be a dogwood.
No, I don't know anything about the
You'd
dogwood.
be a redwood. What kind of tree would you be beautifully? If you could be a tree, if you had to be a tree, what kind of tree would you be and why? And don't say weeping willow. That is not a
That's a great
goal.
tree.
That is
That's
not
a
a
beautiful tree.
That's when I first got in trouble with my mom was I used to be a
Hmm.
tree climber. When I was a kid, I was a tree climber. You give me a tree, I'm going to climb it, man. And I would climb all the way to the top of a weeping willow tree until the branch bent down and I could hit the ground from the bent branch. That never broke.
Wow.
That was the scare that I gave my mom was don't be climbing up it. And so I'd climb up as far as I could go, as high as I could go, and then climb out on the limb until it bent and touched the ground. That was my call to fame. And I never fell out of a tree ever. So.
Good morning, Vicky. Beautifully's answer is evergreen. I'd like to be green all year round, and
Evergreen.
they look pretty in the snow.
Yeah. And sometimes
That's
they
not
smell
too bad.
nice.
Hmm.
I was allergic to Christmas trees, real Christmas trees, when I was little, so we could never have a real Christmas tree. We always had the fake trees,
Hmm.
but they were usually the green fake trees.
Are you
Now
still
you
allergic?
now you buy trees that are hung upside down and you hang them
Hmm.
from the chandelier. I don't understand all that stuff, man. Where do you put the presents? Where do you put the presents on a tree that's an
The
upside
tree
down?
points to the presents.
Oh, a
I
different.
don't know.
I'm not into. No, that's not.
Hey, when you get to hanging your tree upside down, you might as well just tell the kids the truth.
What
This
about
shit is all
Vicky?
my making, and I am Santa.
What about Vicky? Is she still doing coffee and hair and all that kind of stuff? What kind of tree would you be, Vicky? If you had to be a tree, what kind of tree would you be and why?
I think Vicky's the only one that doesn't do coffee and hair in the morning.
She doesn't do coffee and hair.
No, she flips on a
She
camera and just
does.
looks cute straight out of bed. It's ridiculous and
She,
maddening.
she's usually doing something. She
Yeah, sitting
goes.
there looking cute for no
She
reason.
goes.
She just
She
has her
goes off
beanie on and that's
screen
it.
and mutes and does. She does things. She
She's
just
not.
doesn't.
It's
She's
not her
not as
hair or coffee. I promise you that.
she's not as visual about it as you and beautifully are. Y'all just do whatever, change tops, all kind of stuff, right on the air, man. Y'all don't
Yeah,
care.
it's a really good show.
Y'all
Anybody
don't
who's here
care,
at
man.
Bible study, you should show up on Monday through Friday when Beautifully and I get real crazy on the
I'm telling you,
stream.
man. When they first start in the morning, if you ever listen to them on Rumble, when they start their Karen Reed program, sometimes I sneak in early, and I don't say anything. I'm just listening to what's going on. And they tell all the juiciest stuff, man. When they first come on and they're saying, "Hello, what did you do last night?" And they blurt it all out, man. They blurt out everything. And and then it's usually quite a bit before the Karen Reed trial starts, so that they're watching the people come in and doing their hair and makeup and they're talking all girl stuff, all girl talk. That's the
Yeah.
best, man. That's the best time to see it. It's the girl talk.
That actually did happen yesterday. And I looked up and the court was starting. I was like, oh, the judge is coming in and we never hit live.
Wow. Yeah.
On the day we said we would show up early because we weren't slackers like court.
Well, see, that's
See?
the fascinating thing about watching you do Karen Reed trial, because the lawyers, they have to be all fancy, and they can't kid around. Sometimes Baker does. Baker and Mo and Valhalla are doing the Karen Reed trial too, and sometimes they get a little clever with things, but the lawyers have to be so rigid, all official, and this is what this means, and which is good, because you go back and you watch those and you can figure out what's actually going on. When they
Right.
had Wiffle on, or Welcher, or whatever his name was, when they had Dr. Welcher on, I didn't know what he was talking about half the time, man. I didn't know what he never answered a question. He always
Oh,
just
man.
he answered the question with a question. Is all he ever did. He could never say yes or no. It was
That was
always,
so frustrating.
it was always some conditional phrase that he had to, which is great for the prosecution. That's who hired him, and he was earning his money as a prosecutorial
You think
witness.
that's good? You think he
No,
did
it's
a good job
terrible.
for them? No,
It's
but do you think that the people who paid him are happy with what he did?
The whole thing. If you watch Brennan when he's doing stuff, and you watch any of the defense team when they're doing stuff, you can tell it's like a kangaroo court. It's all orchestrated so that their side will win. Whatever it is, whatever they say, it's all orchestrated for them to win. They don't care anything about justice for John or Karen or anybody. They don't care about justice. They're out to win their case.
Yeah.
And maybe that's their job, but it seems wrong to me.
No,
It
it's
seems
not their
wrong
job.
to me.
Justice is their job. I would say they're not doing it. And I mentioned this on the show yesterday, or maybe the day before, but it is kind of strange that her theory is that it's the state against her, and they have, like, shouldn't they appoint some kind of special judge or somebody that isn't part of this group of people that she is asserting would go out of their way to frame anyone for a murder? That's what's bizarre to me. It's like,
All I know is if I lived in Massachusetts, I would be looking at this and saying, what a complete waste of money. How much money have we spent on this thing, man? What nobody, I don't know.
yeah, it's a lot.
I've seen some of the channels where they think she killed him. But there's no question. You talk to anybody, even the people that believe she's guilty think she's overcharged.
Really? What do they say she's guilty of?
Well, accidentally killing him, accidentally running over him. I don't think there's anybody that thinks that she's, all right, here I go. Look out, John, here I'm coming, 24 miles an hour. Boom. I don't think there's anybody that thinks that.
Which isn't her charge, right? She's charged with her conduct.
I think that's her charge. I think it's a kind of a premeditated thing that aren't one in three.
In the one where she had to have, like, where they say that she had to have had intent, it's not intent to hit him. It's willfully knowing that her actions could have hurt someone, whether she knew someone was there or not. That's that charge.
And then, bless their heart, the last or the first witness for the defense, the second witness for the defense, who was the accident he wasn't an accident reconstructionist. He just looked at the report that the other side did and said, here's what it really says.
But
he was saying, Vicky, he was saying, yeah, you should have bought 3 or 4 Lexuses, and then you could really know. But you just buy the one Lexus, and you can't really tell anything.
He did kind of say that.
Yeah. Oh goodness.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into this last week of the case. I think it'll be all of the witnesses that give you the questions that make you go, wait, he saw what, or they saw what, or what?
I can't say that the Italians would be any better because, they had the little girl who was accused of killing her boyfriend, and being a trollop and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
Um,
hmm
but usually in Italian families and Scottish families and there are certain cultural families where the husband and wife are just, it's a wonder they don't kill each other every day, and they love each other to death. They're not gonna, but they fight, they just and John is like an Italian, right? Wasn't he kind of like from that kind of background? Um,
I never caught
O'Keefe,
that vibe.
O'Keefe, maybe he's Scottish, but he's got something in him where they're gonna be, their relationship is gonna be argumentative all the time, man. Uh,
Mm, they
you
were
know,
kind of like they were on the precipice of breaking up. Just
uh,
listening to the way that they spoke, she's like, "It must be someone else," and he's like, "I'm not dealing with your bullshit."
Squab doesn't know the ways of love, so he probably should keep his mouth shut.
But you
But
could totally be right, though. Maybe they just have a fire relationship. I didn't feel it.
some
I didn't catch
relationships
that.
are that way, man. They get up in
Yeah.
the morning, yelling at each other. Uh, it was your turn to do the coffee. Why didn't you take the trash out?
Yeah.
Can't you just take the trash out? Pick up your clothes, man. Look at him.
Vicky said Irish for sure. Beautifully said
And they
Irish.
were, and they had a mad, love session the night before where stuff just flew everywhere. That's the way they. It's the way
Gross.
they. It's the way they are. The way their
Mm,
relationships go.
it didn't seem like that. If you think about the one text that where she was like, "Well, what's going on? Why are you so distant?" He says, "I don't bounce back from an argument like you do."
He was all, quit nagging me, quit calling me, quit nagging me, give me some peace.
Well, she's like, "I said something to you this morning and you hit me with the pillow." She's like, "I want affection and you want to play." And that's when he said, "I don't bounce back from arguments as quickly as you do." So I don't, your theory might be a little
And she wanted
shit.
some alone. She wanted some alone time with him. She didn't want to be a
Yeah.
babysitter. She was tired of the kids, man. And from all accounts, they won't let us listen to the kids. But I think she was probably a pretty good babysitter. You know, I think she loved the kids
Yeah.
and did well by the kids. She just, that's not what she was in it for.
Right.
But she did her job or whatever. You know, I don't think she was ever mean to the kids, and beat them or anything like that, like Cinderella's mom, the stepmom or whatever.
Morning coffee.
I don't know.
Well,
And he was a bachelor. He had a hard, he took on the kids. Everybody praises him for it, but then he completely ignores them. He wasn't good at it. He just wasn't good at.
well,
But he
I don't
thought
think he
he felt it
completely
was
ignored
his responsibility to take on the kids, and so he did. But he wasn't good at it. He needed help, and that's why he turned to Karen and whoever.
I don't think so. I mean, he'd have the. Do you know how long he
Maybe,
had the kids before Karen showed up?
I don't know. I don't think he
Years.
was. I don't think he was that great with the kids, man. I just thought.
Well,
I just think he
it's
thought it was
hard
his
to be a
responsibility.
parent. He stepped up even though other people were available to do it when the sister died, and he split the responsibility. Although they lived with him, there were, I think, two other guardians for the kids. I don't know. It is very hard to be a parent, especially out of the blue parent. Um, but he didn't originally use Karen. He used Jen and Carrie for his support system. Then Karen came along. And I think the reason that they hated her is because they were replaced by a more efficient
Yeah.
model.
We probably talked too much about Karen. I should
Think
talk.
so?
Can get more back into trees. Have you ever heard the story of the three trees? The story of the three trees.
I don't think so.
Is that remember there were these three trees who lived up on a hill, and they had plans for what they were going to be when they grew up. And one of the trees, he wanted to be a great treasure chest to hold precious. He wanted to be made into a treasure chest to hold great wealth and riches and everything. And then the second tree wanted to be a great ship and sail, all across the world and see everything. And he wanted to be a great ship. That was his plan for when he grew up. And then the third tree wanted to be the tallest tree in the world, pointing up to heavens and up to God. That's kind of where the tree of life comes in today. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, he wanted to be like the tallest tree in the world, pointing up to God. And so, the three trees grew up and these woodcutters came in. Oh, man.
Oh no.
Chopped down all three of the trees, man. And the first tree, he wanted to be a treasure chest. He was made into a feeding trough for donkeys and the animals and stuff.
Mm.
And then the second tree, he wanted to be a great ship. Well, they made him. He was made into a boat that was used by fishermen, just a small simple boat, and then the third tree, when they cut him down, he wanted to be the tallest tree. He was just made into lumber, just a stack of lumber, and they were so disappointed. How their life had gone, how all their plans, nothing worked out. And then the first tree that wanted to be a treasure chest was made into a feeding trough. There was a time when uh, the angels spoke in the heavens, and the shepherds came, and he was made into it was a manger. It was a manger, and it was held. Little baby Jesus was put into the manger, the greatest treasure ever on earth. That was so he was so happy that he got to hold the little baby Jesus. And then the tree that wanted to be a ship and was made into a boat. Guess what? The fishermen were the disciples, and he got to carry Jesus in the storm and watch Jesus still the waves, and he got to carry the Savior of the world, across Lake Galilee as a ship. And then the tree that was made into lumber. Guess what the lumber was made into? A cross. It was made into a cross on which Christ died and saved the world, and pointed the cross. You look to the cross, and it points to God. The death of the Savior points to God, and that was the story of the three trees.
Aw. Trees plan, God laughs.
Well, it just goes to show, that your life, you may not see how your life is affecting others, or what you do is important, or how the twirling of your hair with the iron and twirling it. I was watching that the other day. What was it, like 20 minutes? I think I was surprised at actually how fast you can go from like a plain hair to the twirly hair with a little iron. I had never seen women do that before. And so but it's amazing when you do that. Whatever you do online, it affects people. People see that, and they say, "Wow," and Zach comes along and says, "Wow, that's beautiful," or is he saying, "Hey to beautiful"? He's saying something about beautiful.
I have to show. I'm gonna show Zach this picture really quick.
And Coffee Crew Mocha is here.
A picture of you, and I've been waiting for you to show up.
Picture of Zach?
Yeah, because I did all my courtroom drawings and I didn't have anything else to draw, so I drew Zach.
With Snorky? That's a fish. That's not a little dog.
It's literally the best I've ever done.
I think he had a picture that was like that.
That's where
he caught a big fish.
Big old goldfish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been waiting forever to see Zach. It's good to see you.
Moby Dick. Is it Moby Dick? What was the whale's name? Was it the whale's name, Moby Dick?
Moby, yeah, I think so. I don't know.
Be careful you don't get swallowed up, Zach. But see, Zach never knew. Zach never knew that you would be painting, that he would have that formative of a influence on your life, that you would, draw a picture of Zach that one day may be in a gallery, of divinities, especially if she dies tomorrow. We'll put all her pictures in a gallery and sell them. and I could have a Zach original, in my home.
That would be super dope.
That would be super dope.
Good grand risings, Lady Autumn Sky. Good to see you. All right, are you ready to talk about trees? So listen,
I am
this
ready
is
to
not
talk.
going to be like some in-depth study, okay?
Oh, yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is.
Okay.
I have a lot of notes. Where did you want to
Alright.
start though with the tree of life? Did you want to hit the scripture somewhere, or it starts in Genesis, right? The tree of life,
Yeah, starts
and
in Genesis.
if you listen to Wes, is it Wes? What's his last name? Huff.
Wes Huff.
Wes Huff. Yeah, I think he finds the tree in like every book of the Bible or something like that. I
Ooh,
don't
that's super cool.
know. But yeah, trees, the tree of life. Trees have a very special place throughout the whole of Scripture, and actually throughout all of religions. If you look at trees, there's something about the roots planted in the ground, and the trunk and the branches, reaching up to the heavens. That trees carry a very religious tone through almost all cultures, whether it's Egyptian or Celtic or whatever. They're very, very important. And the tree of life is probably the most important of all the trees. So
Yeah.
that's why I asked. But none of you. The closest we had to it was who said they wanted to be an evergreen.
Beautifully.
Yeah, beautifully was the closest to that. She wanted to be an evergreen tree.
I mean,
Um,
redwood is an evergreen.
oh,
For the
is it?
record. Yes.
Oh, so you're jumping on the bandwagon there.
What's it?
I did too. I did too. Yeah. Well, that's good. That's a good. That's as close to the tree of life as you can come, I would think.
Well, what
Would
is
be
the
it
tree
like
of knowledge made out of? What type of tree is that?
what?
The knowledge, the one next to the tree of life.
The tree of good and bad. The tree of
Knowledge
the
of good and evil,
knowledge of
yeah.
good and evil.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think anybody says they want to be that. Which
Are you kidding? Everybody wants to be. That's the
everybody
struggle.
wants to be that tree.
Feels like, yeah.
She saw she saw the tree that it was desirous to make one wise, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she wanted to be wise, and that was the temptation. That's what she fell to. I just want to be wise. Who wouldn't want to be wise? But God said no. God said don't you eat it. Don't you eat it. And then somehow or another Eve got, don't you touch it. Don't you touch it. And
It's not, I don't think it's that we didn't have wisdom. We just didn't know if things were good or bad. It's the knowledge of good and evil, not just, I don't think wisdom was kept from us.
well, that I don't know if it was if it was the serpent that tempted her that way, or she came up with that on her own. But she noticed that the tree was desirous to make one wise. I think Satan said you'll be like you'll know stuff. You'll be like like God. You'll know stuff. And I think that's where she got tempted. Hmm. See, Vicky's brought up the egg tree, egg drip. It's called egg. Is that egg? That's in the Norse stuff. Their tree, but it was very big with most all the cultures. Mesopotamia, Egypt. You look anywhere you look, there's a tree, man. And the Celts were the Druids were called tree worshippers because of the oak. That's why they so prize the mistletoe. It was like a religious thing that it's from the gods or whatever.
It does say wisdom there, though. That she said it was desirous for wisdom.
Mm-hmm. But did you have some things about the tree of life that you wanted to start with? Otherwise, I'll just jump right
No.
in, man. I got all kind of stuff.
Go for it. Go. You can jump right in if you want.
All
I'm with you.
right, man. Well, the main thing that got Israel in trouble was the Asherah. we may have talked a little bit about it a couple of weeks ago. I don't know, but when 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 Abram came into Canaan, um, the Canaanites had a religious structure that was very, very, very similar to what we see in Judaism. Their chief god was El, um, which is what we see in the Bible for God. El, that's the Hebrew
Hmm.
word for God. Elohim, or the angels,
Right.
whatever. Um, but and then Baal was his son. Um, and they were always getting in trouble worshiping Baal, and that was the Canaanite, god. So they were not supposed to do that. They were supposed to wipe that kind of stuff out, and they never did. But um, well, El's mom or El's wife, Baal's mom, or some would say his consort, that Baal's wife, one of them was Asherah, and Asherah's in all those uh, religions. Egyptian, they call her Astarte or um, I forget all the names, but they're basically all the same. This same goddess, who was supposed to be God's wife, and there is a thought that for a long time that Israelites thought God had a wife, that Israelite worship, that they thought God had it. Well, they actually get that from the Canaanites, because in the Canaanite worship, that's what they had. They had God, they had God's wife, they had God's son. And some people claim that the Roman Catholic Church has tried to make Mary into that, God's wife.
Hmm.
That's why they pray to Mary, because she's God's wife. Um, and there's a little bit of you get a little confused, because what did the Mary was a virgin, right? But she was overshadowed. I forget how it's exactly worded, um, but it seems like something certainly strange is going on there, but we don't, and they correlate that to Greek and Roman stuff, with Zeus coming down and having intercourse with women, and it's a big thing, but I think it's a whole lot holier than that, because I'm a Christian and I believe in the Christian scriptures, and
Hmm.
Old and New Testament, and I believe what the Bible tells me. And they don't say that God came down and had sex with Mary. That's not what that's about. But
Right.
but anyway, there was a lot of confusion about this Asherah, and her symbol was, guess what? A tree.
Oh.
Um, she was thought of as like an almond tree, or and some people claim that, like in Judaism, you know what a menorah is, right?
Hmm.
You got the menorah that's got like the candles that comes out, and it's got the places for the candles. Some
Hmm.
people say that's a picture of an almond tree, and that's related to
Let's Google
Asherah
it.
worship. Um,
I mean, I don't see anything specific. Look,
Nothing.
I mean, hold on. I'll show
But
you a picture of this tree.
there's a lot of trees in there. When you have Aaron, you guys remember who Aaron was,
I
right?
kind of see it.
You sort of see it a little bit.
I mean, they all kind of do this thing where there's like two. I don't know. Kind of.
Yeah. Well,
Do you kind of see it?
they see that as maybe
It's
some people
pretty.
would correlate that with Asherah and Canaanite worship, and that's where the menorah comes from. And um, but I don't think so, because I think God blesses the use of the menorah. Um, I think you have that in the tabernacle, or I don't know, but yeah, another place where you have the tree is that, you remember Aaron, who was Moses's.
Hmm.
Um, he had he was like Moses's mouthpiece, the right hand man. He's actually the one who would talk to Pharaoh. Would be Aaron.
Right.
I don't know why they had him as a go-between, but he kind of was. And Aaron had a staff.
Don't you, well, it's got to be for something, right? It's got to be because, like, sometimes God uses you to give a message, to get a message, but he might not also use you to give the message.
Yeah.
So like we needed each other. We needed each other's specific skill set. Maybe that's
Well,
what they're trying to show us.
you might remember that's what Moses first complained to the burning bush about when he saw the burning bush. He said, you know,
Right.
go and free my people. And you know, Moses was all, I'm not, no, I'm not the
Me?
guide. I'm not,
Right.
you know, I can't speak. I stumble over my words, and I will give you Aaron to be your, you know, whatever. And so Aaron had a staff, and that was contained in the ark. You remember the Ark of the Covenant, you know, that was had all this. Well, one of the things in the Ark of the Covenant was Aaron's staff that budded. It budded
Oh,
almond tree blossoms.
what?
Uh,
Is that true?
yeah, look in number 17.
Okay.
Number 17. We'll go right to scripture.
Oh,
So
let me just go on the internet so y'all can see it. Numbers 17.
number 17. The budding of Aaron's staff.
Wow.
The Lord
But
said
I
to
didn't know
Moses,
it budded. You said almonds?
almond tree.
Yeah, I see it there. Blossomed and produced almonds.
Yeah.
Verse 8.
Wow.
The
So
next day Moses.
when you look at all the details, it's easier to see. You know, when we look at it, why would they worship a golden calf out in the middle of the desert? Why do you know? Well, when you look at it, it's very confusing for the people because Canaanite worship had so many parallels to
Oh,
Israel worship.
each
So
of the tribes got their own tree.
it all gets confused.
The next day Moses entered the tent, but this is crazy. The next day
It's
Moses
crazy.
entered the tent and saw Aaron's staff, which represented the tribe of Levi, and not only sprouted, but it budded, blossomed, and produced almonds. How long does it take a damn almond tree to produce an almond? I mean, it might flower for the first few years. Then Moses brought out all of the staffs from the Lord's presence to all the Israelites. They looked at them, and each of the leaders took his own staff. So there's a tree that represents each of the 12 tribes of Israel.
Yeah.
That's dope.
So you can see how, you know, with tree stuff and worship stuff, and it got very confusing. It got very confusing for the people.
Well, it got confusing for us because remember when we argued about Romans 11 and I was saying God says he, you know, chopped off the natural branches and he grafted us in, and not to be too proud because he can chop us off too and he's willing to graft them back in. It's always this tree language.
And then of course trees usually live a lot longer than we do, right? So we come and go, and the tree is still there. It's not like the tree was eternal, but you could see how you could get into tree worship because you're saying, well, I'm going to be dead and gone, but the tree's still going to be here.
Right.
You know, look for the tree. And, you know, it's got roots in the ground. It's very mysterious, you know, into the underground, you know, and underworld or whatever. That's what the Egyptians saw, is that the roots were in the underworld, and then the branches were, you know, reached up to the sun god. And,
well, back, and it's weird because we're trying to, in the garden, we chose the tree of ourself. We chose to lean into our own understanding. And then we go through this whole process of coming back to the garden. And in the garden, before we chose self, God tells us that he put the trees in the garden, but that they weren't watered yet, that because there was no man to tend them, but that the water came from the ground up to give water to the earth. That's kind of what happens when you get back to that tree and it's got those deep roots. It no longer requires the water from earth. It requires the deep waters from within, which is the living water of Christ. We're like right back full circle to that tree.
That's the other thing is water. You know, you take the tree of life and you go to the book of Revelation, and what do you see? It's like the river comes from the throne of God.
Yeah.
And on either side of the river is what? The tree of life.
The tree, yeah.
So you get kind of a mingling of the water, the living water, and the tree of life.
And the tree of life is on either side of the water, right? They say it in a weird way where it's almost like the water runs through the tree.
It is said in a weird way, and I have seen some YouTube videos that would claim that it's a Hebrew word, but I've looked at the Hebrew word, and it does seem like it's singular, tree. But some say no, 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 no. It's plural, and it's really meaning it's not that the one tree that's producing 12 fruits, which is what you see in the book of Revelation, that it's like one tree with 12 fruits, but it's really like 6 trees on one side and 6 trees on the other side of different kind of fruit trees. So they're having it make a little bit more sense maybe than what we actually see.
I don't think that
But
makes more sense.
yeah, because I've looked at it, and I think it actually one tree, the tree of life, on either side, of the river, that the river kind of like goes
Runs
through the
through it.
trees.
Yeah.
And if it's like some of those giant trees that Div wants to be, they have made roads through those things.
I've driven through one. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can have like a river, go through it.
Easy. And it would easily be alive. I drove an expedition through a tree before, and that tree
Really?
is
Oh, wow.
still standing. Yeah.
So this is testimony from Div that she has actually been like she's gone through the tree of life. She has entered into the tree of life, and
chandelier tree.
She has stories to tell. She has stories to tell.
I drove through this tree just like that guy.
And then, as long as we're mentioning, I probably should mention this when we talk about El and Asherah and Baal. Another name for El is, guess what? What would you guess if you had to guess El's name?
And okay, so you're saying God is also called El, and what else would El be called?
And Canaanite worship, they called their chief god was El. But guess what El's name also was? The Tetragrammaton, YHWH or YHVH. Yahweh was also another name for the Canaanite god El. So some people would say, well, the Jews just borrowed all this stuff from the Canaanites and reinterpreted stuff. But it gets a little confusing because the name comes in. God never really told him. Moses, he says, he asked. He's the one who asked for God's name. I don't know if we should look that up or not. The burning bush, but and it's a burning bush. It's a tree, right? It's a burning, eternal tree. Some people would say that it's the tree of life. This burning bush is the tree of life. But that talks to Moses, and Moses, Moses asks, whose name, what name? The people are going to ask what your name is. When I go back to the people, they're going to say, well, who? Well, who was it? And God says, what does he say? Let's look it up, man. Where's it?
I am who I am.
Yeah, he says, I am. Tell them I am has sent you.
Such a good line.
Which is like that's not a name. Is that a name?
No, it's not a name, but that's why they don't put a name on God. So when you say the Tetragrammaton is a name for God, it's actually a way to not name God, to put a little respect on his check. So they weren't really naming God there. Yeah. They were just saying it's the guy you refer to as this thing.
Tell
this
them
character.
I am has sent me. Now, I'm one who believes that God is completely holy. He knows what he's doing. He's a good guy. He's not gonna, lie or cheat or whatever. He's straight up with us. But there are some things that God keeps to himself, and one of those things has been his name. One of the other things was, hey, when was Jesus born? We don't know. He keeps it to himself. There's a lot of stuff like that God has kept to himself. He hasn't told us in Scripture. Doesn't want us to know. It's not a big It's not a big thing. Right. And one of the things is, well, what do we call you? Nobody knows. I kind of like the name Yahweh, when I'm talking about, or Yeshua, for Jesus. I don't think Jesus is a bad, that's a Hellenized, that's a Greek way of saying Yeshua, in Greek would be Jesus. I don't have any problem with that. Do you have a problem with that, Div?
No.
I don't have a problem with that. Or calling, or Jehovah, if you want to call God Jehovah, it's just fine.
How do you feel about calling God Allah?
Well, I think to be fair, I think it's a fair way of saying it in
Me
Arabic.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find
Now,
that people argue with. I thought you were going to argue here.
no,
That's very consistent of
no,
you.
I don't think they're worshiping.
That's a different question,
It's a
right?
it's a challenge between, are they worshiping the same God in a wrong way, or are they worshiping a different God?
I think same God, wrong way.
Well, that could be it. But I think just like we sometimes make God into the bad guy,
Yeah.
I think they've made Allah into the bad guy. And so,
Oh, I mean,
um,
yeah, Christians do the same thing. That's why they
yeah,
don't. They're like, oh, your God is just this
we
bad
do. We
guy. We
we do
don't
the
worship
same
him.
thing.
Yeah.
There's many, 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 many a time that we have tried to make God in our image, and most people do, I think. You get a
Mhm.
certain That's why the Presbyterians don't like pictures of Jesus. Is we make God in our image, and for a long time he was a white Italian, whatever, with long hair.
Blue
And
eyes.
then the black people got all upset and said, no, 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 Jesus was black. Well, he may have been. He was at least darker than what we had pictured him to be, for all those, when we had the control over what Jesus was
We
to
were the
look like.
boss.
We made him in our image. And it fascinates me
Yeah.
sometimes when people get into the Shroud of Turin. What do you think about the Shroud of Turin, Div?
Well, I don't have much opinion on it. My parents are super religious. They have the whole thing in their house
They
where
got the
they
Shroud of Turin in their house?
not the thing, but there's like a X-ray of it. There's
Oh,
an
wow.
official X-ray
Oh,
of it, yeah. So I know about it. I apparently they wrapped him, and then Jesus's impression has remained on the shroud. Correct?
hmm.
Yeah. I don't. It. I've seen Jesus's shadow in the or picture in the shadow of a tree. So do I think you could see Jesus everywhere? Yeah. Do I think that's real? Not so much, but what do I know?
Well, you know what,
I
what
know
gets
that I
me?
don't know.
What gets me about the shroud is the gospel account of how they wrapped his head separately from his body.
Okay.
And that when Peter and John come into the tomb, they find the stuff, folded and, I don't know, laid aside or whatever. It seemed like it was two different pieces. It wasn't just all one thing. But I wasn't there, so I don't know.
Okay. So
Um,
Vicky said, "Oh yeah, the veil," and she had just watched a show on this recently. So the shroud is the body part, and the veil is the top part, is what you're saying, head part. And so there
uh,
should be no facial impression on the shroud portion.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. Hey,
That's at least what makes sense to me. But like I said, I wasn't there. I don't know all the details of how they prepared people, and maybe they wrapped them twice with different
mhm.
things, and I don't know.
Or
Uh,
maybe they use one big sheet and like they
yeah,
wrap the face as a veil and then take the rest and wrap the body, so they have one shroud.
yeah,
I
yeah.
have no. I mean, obviously, I'm guessing. I'm
Mm.
not sold out. I don't. That I
I'm not
find
gonna
is a little golden calfy.
I'm not gonna test it on Div and see what's best.
Let's do it though.
Wrapper and stuff. Some people do that for a marriage. It's like a marriage game or something. Have you seen that? They like
Oh,
wrap the
no.
wrap the bride in toilet paper or something. I
Oh,
don't I don't
yeah.
understand. I
Right,
don't
yeah.
understand all. What is that about? Is that because they're preparing her for death?
Yes, exactly what that's about.
Oh,
It's an ancient death ritual. When you get married,
I
that's
didn't.
everything is over.
Oh man.
Some they disguise it as let's make a wedding dress out of toilet paper for funsies, but we know what it
But they're
is,
really
swab.
preparing her
You
for
picked it
death.
up on.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that makes a lot of sense. I just found this cute Indian couple online, that are talking about their marriage, and um, it's so cute, man. I forget their name, and I don't know. Div doesn't like me plugging other channels when I
I
come on
never
here,
said that.
but I just found her, and it's so cute because they're if you know Indian culture, it's very conservative. You have to marry within the family. Um, they're old school. Marriages are arranged. It's old school. It's not like,
Mhm.
it's not like American dating or whatever. Anyway, she was young and wanted to go to the prom and didn't have a prom date, so he took her to the prom. You know, um, but it was no, it was he was in college and she was like 16. It was no big, it was no big, it wasn't romantic or anything. But their families knew each other, uh, they grew up together, everything. Well, eventually they do get married. Um, I think when she's around 20 or so. I don't know. I don't think he's that much older than her, but he's older than her. But anyway, they're so cute. They're so cute together. They do married couple things, like when you think each other's thoughts, and never mind.
Oh, you got in your feels about them. That's cute.
Yeah, yeah. So every once in a while, Squab gets jealous of married
Aw.
people. You
Envious,
know,
right?
yeah, yeah. You see relationships that have gone well. There's a lot of relationships. Mo is always talking about the relationships that have gone wrong. No, he just beat her. She just beat him over the head with a baseball bat and left him in the street. But there are relationships that work that are they're very cute, and they go online and they do all their cuteness online. It would probably make, I'm not going to mention his name, but we know of a guy who would probably, it would probably make him sick. He would say, that's just no.
Mm,
He's always talking about woman, and
Whammons.
yeah,
You don't seem
woman.
to like the Whammons very much.
I'm not gonna mention his name.
Good
But
call.
yeah, let's look in Psalm 82 1. Psalm 82 1. Now we think we're talking
82.
about trees, but we are going to get there. We are, believe it or
Not
not,
what
we
that
are going to
says.
get there. Psalm
Slowly but surely.
82.
God presides in the great assembly. He renders judgment among the gods. Little g.
Mhm.
So,
God has taken his place in the divine council. What is that? In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment. The word that's used there is for God is Elohim, which
mhm.
is a masculine plural. Now we usually take that to mean, well, that's evidence of the Trinity, right? You've got the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. That's masculine and it's plural, Elohim. And
I don't
but
take it as that, but okay.
there are look a little further down at verses 6 and 7. What does it say?
I say, you are gods, you are all sons of the Most High, but you will die like mere mortals. You will fall like every other ruler.
Mm-hmm. The immortals. Mm.
This says it's a Psalm of Asaph. Is that the tree thing you've been telling me about?
No, that's
Is that the name
Asherah.
of the wife? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's Asherah. And then let's look over in John, the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verses 34 through 36. John 10, 34 and 30 through 36. Got to put on my special
Jesus answered them, "It is not written in your law. Is it not written in your law? I said, you are gods." If he called them gods to whom the word of God came, and scripture cannot be set aside, what about the one whom the Father set apart as his very own and sent into the world? Why then do you accuse me of blasphemy because I say I am God's son? He says that in the garden too. That's why I said the serpent's not a liar. He says you will become like gods. God comes out. He's like, they've become like us, knowing good and evil.
What do you think about that? It's kind of odd, huh? That's where the Mormons get that, we'll become our own gods and have our own universe because God calls us gods. Isn't that kind of strange? A little bit odd?
Little g, though.
Little g.
Because we're leaning into our own understanding, and so we've become the god of things instead of letting the fruit go and getting the other tree, which I don't even think we mentioned yet, that the other tree The tree of knowledge and the tree of life are sitting in the garden, just chilling. You could have eaten from the tree of life if you wanted. You couldn't have eaten from the tree of knowledge. Well, you could if you wanted to break the rules.
And I
And
have a
they chose to.
theory.
It's just weird to me that even in the garden, you had to choose life. You had to, it wasn't like you were walking with God and you had eternal life. You still had to take that action to choose God, to choose eternity.
Mm.
I find that interesting. Because once we chose self, once we chose and became our gods ourselves, he blocked life because he's like, no, 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 there's no life in that. It would be the worst kind of life to think you're a god and you want to try to sustain the heavens and the everything. Like, good luck.
Well, I'll just say that the pretty much the largest religions in the world are monotheistic. There's just the one God. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. It's just the one God, right? There's just the
Right.
one God, monotheistic. But you see, there's room in Scripture for there being all kind of gods. And Elohim, it doesn't necessarily mean the one true God. It can mean angels. It doesn't even have to be spiritual beings. It can be like chieftains, leaders of the tribe. But generally, it does mean things above, gods. But we look at the scriptures and we see a monotheistic Trinity, which took a long time to kind of iron out. One God and three persons. For a long time, Christians, even today, there are some Christians that have troubles with the Trinity. They believe in just the one God, and they think that the Trinity is saying, "Up, you believe in three gods." And so there are oneness Christians who believe, no, it's just we're describing it wrong when we say Trinity. But I'm a Trinitarian, so I believe in the Trinity. But there are other Christians who would disagree with me. But you can see where it's kind of confusing. Most all the places around where the Israelites were not monotheistic. They had all these gods, and even in Israeli worship, you had godlike beings. You had angels. Who was Melchizedek? We looked at that. Who were the guys that came to Abram and Sarah and said, she's gonna have a baby. There was a couple of guys that came to him, and we look at these as angels. Well, most other cultures looked at them as gods, and
because they were from above. They were that Elohim.
Yeah, they were the Elohim. And some people look at them. You go back, and there's a lot of different stuff online about aliens. I don't believe in aliens. Now, if I were to believe in aliens, I would say that they're angels and demons. But there are a lot of people who say that we came from aliens. And there are some people who would say that even Yahweh, El, Asherah, Baal, they look to the Pleiades. Do you know what the Pleiades are? It's like the
Seven Sisters
area of the sky, where you've got Sirius and Orion and the Pleiades. They say that that's where our aliens came from, who seeded Earth, or who the Earth people worshipped. That's who built the pyramids. All the old stuff. Back before recorded history or whatever. That they say that's where.
Oh my gosh, I love the Nebra sky disk. I didn't know that was what they was depicting. This is one of the most oldest things we've ever found, is this Nebra sky disk. This is super dope, and it has that on here. It's missing some things. I stared at this image for hours and hours and hours, many times.
Worshipping?
I wasn't worshiping. I was just trying to understand why they took so much time for this image. Why they took so much care. This meant so much to whoever did it. That's all. I don't know what it means. It's symbolism somehow, but I just found it fascinating that it survived thousands and thousands and thousands of years.
a lot of strange things. And again, it's one of those things. Well, why wouldn't God tell us? Why did he leave the Israelites? Why did he put them in a place where you had stuff that was going to confuse them? Why does he make stuff plain for us? Why doesn't he just tell us stuff that we want to know? Well, he doesn't. You got to have faith. You got to have faith in me. You got to believe what I say. Don't eat from the tree of good and evil. Don't do it.
Mm-hmm. Don't lean into your own understanding.
Don't lean into your own
I
understanding.
got you. Yeah.
Yeah. You trust in me, man. Trust in me. I'm not going to tell you everything. Just trust me.
No, I don't believe the tree of life is an actual tree. I believe it's Jesus. I think it's
Abram,
all symbolic.
Go up to Mount Moriah and sacrifice your son, man.
Mhm.
I'm telling you, sacrifice him for me. Abraham did it. It was counted to him for faith. Now,
No, he didn't do it. He went to the mountain, but he didn't.
God wasn't about to let him do
provided.
it. God provided the lamb. God stopped him, but Abram had to demonstrate his faith, right? He had to say, it's like Job. Even though all this stuff happened to Job, man, it was terrible stuff. He lost all his family, and he had stuff all over his body, and he was just miserable. And he said, though you slay me, yet will I trust in you. Though you slay me, yet will I trust in you. Who else am I supposed to turn to? You're my creator. You're the one, you're God. I believe you're God.
Complete faith in
complete faith, complete trust. That's what God wants. God says it's more precious than gold or silver or whatever in the book of James. He says that's what is the precious thing is your faith. That's why I'm giving you all these tests and trials and cancer and whatever else that Chad has had. That's why I'm doing it is for your faith. You got to believe in me, man. Your life is mine and your life is in me. And apart from me, it's death. Apart from me, it's death. Eternal death. You got to come to me. You got to believe in me. You got to have faith in me.
But it is kind of nice. Like God's system is, here is the world. It's evil by nature. You've chosen to be a god of this world. In this world, you will have your rewards. So while it might be the wrong choice or whatever, spiritually speaking, he doesn't make that choice miserable for people. And I think that that's awesome, And
I'm going to give you another, let's see if I can do this. I don't know.
Lady Autumn Sky said, the tree of life is representing the divine structure of the universe and the path to spiritual enlightenment. Yeah, that's what it is. It's the tree of life and the tree of self. And if you could dead yourself and not keep eating of your own fruit and just, lean into the wisdom that is and trust in it and have faith in it, then that is a path to enlightenment. The tree being an outline of a physical body. Oh, that's interesting to think about. Are you still here, Swabble?
Did I lose you? Are you still there?
I'm still here.
I'm trying something weird. I don't know. I'll post it. I'll see if I can post this in chat. No, it's not going to let me do it. I probably have to go to Rumble. Let me get to Rumble. Let's see.
Yes, are you posting something for them to see?
I'm posting another link to somebody else's channel. Let me see if it. How come it's not coming up? It's just spinning and spinning. I can't get the Rumble.
I don't
know. Let me try it again. Let's see. Rumble. Hey, Rumble.
Are you there? Hello, Rumble.
Hello.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got there. Let's see if I can get to your stuff. It takes Squab. Squab is a boomer. He's old. He doesn't know how to do things. He gets all messed up. And
you're doing great. You do better than most your age. All right.
That is somebody click on that and tell me what it is. It's a guy to listen to, and he talks about the tree of life. It's a good place to go and listen to stuff on. He's a really smart guy, and so far I've really liked what he's had to say. But he talks about the tree of life was in the middle of the garden, right? So you had the land, and then you had
Mhm,
Eden, and
mhm,
then you had the garden, and
mhm.
then you had the tree of life in the middle of the garden.
With the tree
So
of
it's
knowledge,
like
yes.
concentric things, leading to the tree of life at the center. And the tree of life was like heaven on earth. It was like the tabernacle or the temple. It was the place where man meets God. Um,
Mhm.
and it's the core. He's talks about it being the core melody throughout the whole Bible, from Genesis to Revelation. This tree of life. Um,
It's the garden where man meets God, right?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. So I thought he was saying it was the tree.
Well, it kind of, the tree of life was like the heartbeat of the garden. It was like the center. It was life. It
Well,
was
the
the
tree of
tree of
life
life.
is right next to the tree of knowledge. They're both in the center. So we can't like say the other one isn't
Mm,
standing right there.
well, yeah,
We
you're right.
can't.
Yeah,
Okay.
but he never told them not to touch or eat or whatever of the tree of life. It was just the tree
Yeah,
of
but it was still
good and evil.
necessary for the heartbeat of the garden that a tree of knowledge is in there.
And then he also brings up that the tree of life. Well, wasn't Adam already alive? What do you think, Div? Did Adam already have eternal life? Was he going to live forever before
I
the?
don't think so. That's what's tripping me out. I don't think so. I think
You
knowing
think he
God
was?
doesn't mean you have eternity the same way
You,
we experience it now. Knowing
you
him
think
doesn't
it
mean
was?
anything.
You think it was part of God's original plan that Adam die? That he was going to
Absolutely.
die
Had to
uh,
be because he
before
says
he
that
raised?
he's going to step into Jesus. If Jesus doesn't become flesh, he can't step into him. If Adam doesn't die, Jesus can't become flesh.
Oh
Obviously,
yeah, I
his
forgot you put the flesh in thing in there where they weren't they didn't have flesh according to you, right? That they were just.
according to the Bible, right?
Oh, no, okay. I'll give you that. I'll give you that. It's not how I interpret it, but I'll give you that. That's your way of looking at it. But there's something there where I would disagree. I would say that Adam was alive, that you didn't have death. The penalty for sin is death. The disobedience is what brought death. I would say Adam was going to live,
So
but
what's the tree of life for then?
that is the question. Is this so? Then why the tree of life? Um, And the guy whose link I gave you is going to talk about no, he's gonna say that Adam was going to die, that the tree of life was about immortality, that's how they were going to live forever was the tree of life. Well, I think God made Adam to live, you know, forever, and
Had he
disobeying
chosen
is
that,
what
it was always a choice though. We could
disobeying
choose
was
to
what
eat
brought
from the
death.
tree. Clearly, we could choose to eat from the other one, but we were told we would die if we did. So, life if you eat from this one, death if you eat from this one. And we chose death. And God
Yeah.
knew we would because God is sovereign and he did know our choices before the beginning.
Mm. But then there is the aspect, and I think we would all agree on this, that Adam and Eve are expelled from the garden lest they eat of the tree of life and live forever in their sin.
Mhm.
Now, it doesn't expressly say, that they're going to be in an eternal death, but I think that's implied, and I think that we kind of all agree with that, right? That if he was
I
not
don't think
if he
I
wasn't
don't think that's
barred
true.
if he wasn't barred from eating from the tree of life after he fell, that he would be like the demons. He would forever be trapped in a living death, right?
If he had chosen eternity, right? Yeah, because I don't think that our soul is eternal. I think it can die and will die. Had except thankfully he blocks the tree of life, so that is how it is. You just don't have to
So
have eternal death.
we would probably both agree that being expelled from the garden, having an angel with a flaming sword, guarding over the tree of life, being expelled from the garden is kind of like a severe mercy, right? Um, that God is actually, it's a merciful thing that God is providing for Adam by preventing them from eating from the tree of life after they ate from the tree of evil.
Right. As his plan was from the beginning, because his plan was always, you'll come back to me through this tree of life. It's just called Jesus. Back to the garden again, where we were perfectly, but we still, even knowing God, we have to choose him. That's why I say, like, the garden is perfect, but Adam didn't have eternity except he would have chosen life. But even in the perfect knowing God, he's like, you can choose me. I'm not going to force you to choose me. I think that's the amazing mercy of God. Even in perfection, before sin, before any of that, he didn't force himself on us.
And as odd as it would sound, you can look at it in a couple of different ways. But I would say that when you look at tree worship and all these other religions, the Celts, the Egyptians, wherever you see it, that you remember I've said before how I believe that God's stamp is on everything, on everything that he has made, that the guy who's in the deepest, darkest Africa who doesn't know of God still has a way to know God, because God has stamped himself on everything that he has made. And so when you see parallels in all these other religions, in some ways, I think that's a mercy too. Now, in some ways, it can be confusing, like it often was for the children of Israel. They saw these parallels in Canaanite worship, and they just fell right into false worship. But there's an element too where you look at it and you say, well, it's a beautiful thing that God is revealed in all these other religions. So if your heart is really seeking after God, he can use Buddhism or Hinduism or Islam. He can use all those religions to point you to the one true God, right?
That's the garden, right?
Yeah.
It's not the tree of life, but it is the garden with a bunch of trees that will eventually get you there. I
And
do
so it's
believe in
like
that.
and so these parallels in other religions, it's like a two-sided coin. It can lead you away from God, but it can also point to God. And I
If you're
think that's
seeking
the way,
truth, you will eventually get there, because truth is seated in all of those.
I
But
think
there's
that's
just
the,
one.
yeah, I think that's the way that, that God works. Now, we would agree that it's the Spirit that has to work in your heart to really turn you toward God. But
Yeah.
it's the aspect that all of creation reflects the glory of God, that even the trees and rocks will shout out and do shout out, the Creator, the glory of the Creator.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to have eyes to see, or eyes that are open to see, how God is in everything. Points to God.
Mm-hmm. At Proverbs, there are 4 different proverbs that I have listed here. I'm gonna read them. It says 3:18 says, "Wisdom is a tree of life to those who take hold of her. Those who hold her fast will be blessed." So it says wisdom is a tree of life, and Eve says she looked at the tree as if it could give her wisdom. That's just her understanding being twisted there. So she might have said it and thought it in a very extremely wrong way. 11:30 says, "The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and the one who is wise saves lives." 13:12 says, "Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life." And 15:4 says, "The soothing tongue is a tree of life, but a perverse tongue crushes the spirit." So that's exactly sort of what Jesus said. Like, what comes out of us is what matters. The life water that comes out of us, flowing hopefully from the throne room, is life. That's what will change the world. That's what will change the people around us. That's what will transform us and give us peace and rest in the midst of the garden, which is in the midst of this world. It's kind of beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is beautiful. And that's the other place where you see expressly mention the tree of life. You've got it in Genesis, you've got it in Revelation, and then you've got it in several places in the Proverbs. Um, I didn't know if you wanted to read more of those, but it comes up time and time again in the Proverbs, the tree of life. And it's usually equated with wisdom in the Proverbs. That wisdom is the tree of life, the tree
And
of life.
I equate wisdom with the Holy Spirit.
Mm.
That's that teacher inside of us. That's our discernment. That is the wisdom that God gives us. That's why Jesus told us we'll do greater things. We literally will house the perfect wisdom of God in us, his spirit. If we would lean into it, if we choose to eat from that tree and stop gazing on the other one.
And I'm going to have to rely on you and your womanly understandings to translate Lady Autumn Sky for me.
Let me see.
Have you been reading some of her stuff in chat?
Do you think there is a correlation in atoms of the fundamental building blocks of matter forming the basis of all substance, and in religion we come from Adam, or just a coincidence? I've always thought that.
Yeah.
Science is doing its best to figure it out, and God always said it first. God said Adam first. God laid out the laws of the universe, all the laws of physics, all the things Newton discovered, God said first. And it's I think it's another just level of the beautiful onion that is God, that he's like, yeah, and I wrote it down and I don't change. And when you guys figure it out, it's just one more thing that's going to confirm that I am who I am. That I am.
I don't know linguistically where Adam and atom come from. We could probably look that up in etymology if you want to do any of that.
I don't think it's a real, I doubt we're going to find like a real connection there. I think it's like the apple being a homonym, or what was it? I think that was the word. That evil and apple are just the same word. It sounds like atoms, we come from Adam. I don't know. I just feel like it's a coincidence. Well, it's not a coincidence, but it is. I don't think we're going to find a tie.
You know, the Hebrews had a lot of that, where things sound, you know, and how the things sound, and we miss that. We miss that in Hebrew when we translate into English a lot of times. But that's in the Psalms especially, that they use that over and over and over again, where things sound alike, or you know, they're making a, you know, like we do with rhymes. You know, we use rhymes where, you know, it sounds alike, and it's so cute and it's so memorable. Well, the Hebrews had all that too, and we lose it. But I'm looking up atom right now in etymology, and it does say that atom comes from a cutting. So you're it's like a part. It's a cut. It's a cutting. So there is some kind of relationship, I would think, there with like cuttings on trees and things like that. I don't know.
Interesting.
But I thought that was kind of interesting that they bring up cutting. It's a atom is a cutting.
And you're talking about ATOM?
Mm-hmm, ATOM.
There's a cutting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's find out what the concordance says atom means, and we'll just go from there. 134.
And it comes from Adama, which means ground in Hebrew. So it's I think that's more of Adam came from the earth, was made from the earth, and so Adam is a ground, is part of is dirt, is
building
earth,
blocks of life. So she's
yeah. I think you could probably make a correlation.
I'm telling you, God did it first. He is the original. Was 132 and 131. Let's see what it says about Adam. Adam, man.
Comes from the word ground or earth, or, you know, God made Adam from the earth, and that's what his name means, dirt. Mm-hmm. Man.
Ready?
Man is dirt. There's a lot of women who have said that, you know, time and time again.
Well, yeah, right. I mean, our soul is the dust. Our life is the dust, right? Didn't we do that show? And the soul is like
To dust we
Dust.
shall return. Yeah.
Hmm.
From dust you came.
Yeah, red earth or ruddy skin color. And Adam originally is red dye or ruddy. So I think you're right, just the red earth. So like maybe Hawaii is where the Garden of Eden is. They got all that red earth. Might
Well,
be everywhere.
that's volcanic rich soil, right? Supposed to be the
Maybe.
good stuff. Which is really isn't lava, isn't that like rocks or something? I don't know. And then it has
I
to degrade
mean,
into dirt or soil, or
it's like glass.
I'm going to call it coffee because coffee
Look.
crew's giving me a hard time. I'm going to say it's coffee grounds.
Do you see this picture on the screen? It was so hard for me to get the AI to do this photograph. It kept
Let me,
doing. This is a picture I said. I was trying to get it to do that Revelation throne room.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So, but to make this pic, every single time it wanted the water to come out of the tree, it was just a mess. It was such a mess to try and figure. So even the AI had a real hard time imagining what I think it's Revelation 2:7, or I think that's what it is.
Coffee crew. It's you brought up. What? How do you say it? Gaia.
Gaia.
Earth, the Earth Mother, or something like that. Yeah. I didn't study that at all, but that doesn't come into my discussion. But if you want us to look into it, into Gaia, and he says, don't let Squab go there. Well, I wasn't going to go there, man. But I can see how you would think that I would. I am going to a different place, which is just as confusing when we bring up Kabbalah. Have you heard of Kabbalah? Divinity? Kabbalah?
Yeah.
Jewish mysticism?
Sort of got my
They
screen
have a
stuck.
tree of life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want to look into it at all, but in Kabbalah and Jewish mysticism, they have the tree of life. Their tree of life is the law of Moses, the scriptures. They say that's the tree of life. And they have a picture of it with 10 Sephiroth, 10 luminous emanating spears. It's a spiritual diagram of how energy flows, and it's really weird stuff. I think it's basically from Eastern mysticism, from Hinduism and Buddhism that's brought into Jewish thought. But the Kabbalah is a very I don't know if we need to bring up a picture of that, their spiritual diagram of how
I've got
energy
it up.
flows. Yeah.
This is interesting, and it's a super side tangent, but when I was trying to figure out other shit, this is the exact way like the planets line them up to figure out like your natal charts and shit like this. I never knew what this chart was, and I made this birth chart to just try to figure out what all these energies were.
I just know if you go on
this.
I just know if you go on YouTube and you type in Tree of Life, you're going to get 20 things on the Kabbalah, and they're going to bring up this Sephiroth chart.
Well, like you said before, everything has a little bit of truth to try to get you there. I think this is another great example of that.
If you look at it on the surface, it sounds really good. They're splitting up our human psyche or how we're made, and they're talking about wisdom and male forces and feminine forces, and strength and judgment and endurance.
Got my name. My name right there, Beth.
Really? Has it got you in there, Beth?
Yeah, I am part of the Tree of Life. Everyone bow down.
You're part of the Tree of Life.
I gotta pee though. Dang, I gotta go water myself.
Well, I could talk about. They don't. Somebody said they don't like it when I talk about Pepe and Hope.
Who cares?
That's her name, by the way.
It's your thing.
Did I mention her yet? That her name is Hope?
I think you semi-landed there. I'm glad to hear it, though.
Well, beautifully said that her name was Ho. It was a perfectly legitimate Pakistani name, Ho. But it's not going to work in America. So we renamed her. Beautifully said to rename, to rename, to rename to rename her Hope. So that's her name. This is Hope. Um, they went on a date. I don't know if I should. I don't know if I should talk about all their private stuff or whatever. Um, you can see the two of them. Look, they're um, he's male and she's female, but she looks a little bit different from other females. She's got some special challenges, you might say. Well, they went to a place that did these face paintings. They charge you so much, and they'll paint your. Well, she has kind of big face parts, and they wanted to charge her extra for getting her face painted, just because she's got a big nose and big ears. They said no, you can't have the regular. They wanted to charge her like twice as much to get her face painted, um, because she's got a big nose and big ears. That's not right. Do you guys think that's right? That's not right, is it? If you go somewhere and you're trying to on a date, you're trying to have fun. It's like a Renaissance fair, and why would they give you a hard time about it? Surely they had to notice that they were on a date. And why would you do something like that to between a couple who are trying to have a good time? They're out at the Renaissance fair, and she wants to get her face painted, and they go up and they say, "Well, it's going to cost you twice as much." That's not right.
Is
That is
that a
not
fat
right.
joke?
That No, it's because she had a big nose and big ears, and they wanted to charge her more for painting her face because
It costs more paint to cover it.
it was going to take more paint. And so they
That
wanted
seems
to
fair.
charge her twice as much to get her face painted. And that's just not right, man.
It is
If you
right. Well, okay,
charge, what do you think, Div? Is that
that's
is
fair.
that something that's fair? Would that
It
be
is
fair
fair.
because it would cost more to
The
have her
alternative
face painted?
would be to charge everyone more so that in the off chance a fat chick shows up, she's not put out. She got a mirror. She knows she's fat. It costs more if
Yeah,
you want to
you
pay for
should
it.
you should calculate for that and adjust it for what you do. It shouldn't be, well, it's going to be this price for you, and it's going to be a different price for somebody else, right?
No,
You
I
should.
think this is the palette. If we can do your makeup with this palette, then it's going to cost you $7. If it takes two because you got a big face, you pay for both palettes. How about that?
Well, I just know it ruined their date, and but
Oh,
let's get back to the cobbler. Ooh, that's a
okay.
very nice. Yours has got all kind of explanations and everything. Got all these circles, but you
Yeah, I
could
don't know
see
why.
how it's. There are certain people who would be very, very, very attracted to all this. Oh, it's science. It's science. It's telling me how to get closer to God through science, and I'm going to do this, man. And look, this is my feminine side. This is my masculine side, and we got the wisdom in there, and all these good things. And some people, you know, they do their whole life around the Kabbalistic tree of life thing. 32 ways to God. And look, they're all interconnected. And they're saying this is who you are. This in your inner soul, this is who you are. This is the tree of life. This is what gives you life, are these things, and going through these things that makes you a better person.
Look at number
And
21 is using your agency to choose between good and evil. Damn, you just gonna eat the apple and then eat the apple and then eat the apple. But this
well,
is like obviously there's going to be errors in this because it is a way to truth and not the
well,
truth.
and I don't mean to talk bad about somebody's, else's religion or their way of finding God. If it helps you find God, then, I don't know, God bless it. But I think it gets a little carried away. It gets a little carried away. See, they use all the Hebrew words, yesod, and what was the other one? Had, uh, splendor. They equate it with the archangel Raphael. See, it's got all this stuff in there. It looks really neat. If I was like a teenager, oh, I would be so into this.
It
I
is
would say,
really neat, I think.
I would say, yeah, face paint me up, with all this stuff, I'm going to get really into this and look at the serapha, the catcher, kether. Oh man, and you got all these weird terms, and this is who you are, and I could see where it would be a very, very tempting thing for folk.
Well, a
And
lot of people have this type of mind and they need to see it sort of broken out into a different way. Like, okay, I am not just a girl. I am
I'm
to
not
be a
just a
complete girl,
girl.
I am both masculine and feminine. Like, you don't get rid of your
I got
dark
all this
side
stuff in me.
because you want to be light. You embrace both sides. You understand how to deal with yourself in every aspect of self. And I don't think this is necessarily a problem, unless, of course, this is the end for you. Unless, of course, this is, I'm looking for God
It's
as so. Then we have a problem. But for people to try to understand, like, this is the way my mind works with, this is the way my heart works with, this is the way my body wants to function. I don't see a big problem with this. Just like every other thing, like we said, this is just another tree in the garden. It's not the tree. It is useful. It's beautiful for certain things, but they're not all. Only one is the tree of life, and this ain't it.
Well, they're saying this makes you closer to God. And
Anytime you're searching for truth, you got to get closer to God, right?
Well, there you go, searching for truth. And I don't, there are different paths that you could take. There's just really the one door,
Right.
Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Enter, through him, and you'll find. But there are a lot of different things that in nature or in different religions that kind of point to the right thing, but it can really mess you up. And again, I don't mean to talk down on people, but it's kind of like people that get into stone energy, crystal energy, or birth. Your when you were born. How do you believe about that, Div? Do you think you're matched up? If you're born in February, you have to marry somebody who's born in September, or that's
No.
going to be a better relationship for you
No.
than marrying somebody that
No.
has the same birthday or whatever.
I do think that God probably has it worked out down to some kind of degree that we could never fathom, but I don't think we are attuned to that. I do think there's energy in everything, and that God did do nothing without a purpose. And I do also equate that to the time, place, and circumstances in which every soul was brought into this world. Yes. But I don't lean on it. Like, I don't.
But when I was coming up, it was, hey, what's your sign? What's your sign? That was how you started at each date. That's how you knew whether you were going to be compatible with somebody, is you had to find out what their sign was. And I don't fault people for looking like at Kabbalah for structure, or what stone, what your birthstone is, or what your sign is, or those are structures that people look to give them. They have the horoscope. Some people, they live by that. They say, what does my horoscope say for today? And it says you're going to meet a beautiful stranger who's going to be talking about trees. And you said, wow, that hey, what happened to me? And how how everything matches up. And what do you think about all that, Div? Is there some validity in any of that?
You said it earlier. If we won't cry out, the rocks will do the crying out. I think that every single thing is God's creation, good and evil, and that he'll use anything to bring his children to him. So yeah, if God is speaking to somebody in that way and leading them out something else, I think he can use it. I just don't discount anything. God, as long as God is at the top, as long as God is the creator and everything else is just the clay, you're doing all right.
And yes, Vicky, I get trapped into it too. Now, not so much with Slytherin, and what were the other houses? Hobonot or something. I don't know. What was Potter in? He was in one of the houses, Gryffindor. But yeah, when you get online and you meet another Aquarian. I'm Aquarius, and you meet another Aquarian, and you say, "Go Aquarians!" I think doesn't YouTube have little things at the bottom, little icons where you can praise, one of the one of the signs of the zodiac, whichever one you are, they've got little icons down there. Put a
I
couple
don't
of them
know.
up, Vicky. You could go down there and put a couple of them up, where it's whether you're Aquarius or Scorpio, or there's like 12 or 13 signs, and but I don't think that has anything to do with your personalities. That's the other thing. Do you do the personality tests where you have
Yeah.
where you're either what are the different things? There's I forget what they are.
There are several different types of personality
Personality types.
tests. There's a
hmm
Myers-Briggs test.
Yeah. Do you do those tests where you
I've done
find
that
out your
test.
personality type
I have.
and phlegmatic or what's some
Yeah,
of the
but are
other ones?
you saying that like God is exclusive from any type of human understanding and you don't need to understand
No,
yourself whatsoever?
I'm saying some of that can be true. You and I are different, and we have different ways of thinking about stuff, and maybe you can categorize it, but I don't think it has to do with when you were born,
Oh
or
no, the personality tests don't have anything to do with when you were born.
just has to do with your personality, right?
Correct. How
Mm.
your
I
fight,
tend
flight, or
to be
freeze,
a
your different psychological reactions and with self, with others just the way that you behave is sort of what that's telling
see
you.
what
I'm
is that?
extrovert,
Vicky
introvert, different things like that.
Vicky is an M, right? She's an
Legs
M.
closed, that
That's an
means
M. And
Virgo,
MB, that's like a
virgin.
master of something, right?
Yeah,
MB. Um, yeah. You
she's a
know,
Virgo.
my personality test would be, well, he's a mean old man. Um, you know, that's what mine would come up. Well, he's a mean old man. And old people we do get cranky. Don't you think we get cranky at times? Does your
Yeah.
mom get cranky sometimes? Or is
hmm
she a delight? She's a
But
delight.
like that's just your personality changing over time. I think if you
Mm.
understand how your personality works, like if you understand you're super introverted and you're like, oh, I never really understood that. That's why I don't like to go places or do something or something. And then you have like a relationship with somebody who's extroverted and you've taken the time to understand what both of these things mean. You can human at a different level because, yeah, I'm going to set myself introverted self aside to make this happen for somebody else. And I don't know. I don't think there's any problem with learning who you are. I mean, God gave us distinct personalities and then said, now love each other. So clearly he wants us to figure out how that all works together.
But yeah, Vicky, I'm an Aquarius, which is like the water, but somehow or another it's a fire sign, isn't it? I don't know. I think it's a fire sign, but it's water. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any
I
sense to
think
me.
Aquarius, is that the water bearer? So it's pouring out water,
But it's not a water sign. What
but it's a fire sign is the element, right?
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It wouldn't make sense
Um,
to you because you've never studied it.
well, I sang the song when I was young. When the moon is in the seventh house and Jupiter aligns with Mars, and peace will rule the planets and love will rule the stars. The dawning of the age of Aquarius. Did you ever hear that song? It's just
I think
it's
so.
just an old squab song.
No, Aquarius is
Tis
an
the
earth
dawning
sign.
of
It's
the
a water sign.
age of Aquarius.
He's talking about the
The
symbol
age.
is the two little water things.
Yeah, the squiggly
She's saying
thing.
it's earth sign, not
I
fire
know I'm
sign.
squiggly. One of my nicknames,
I'm Googling it up.
my first nickname when I was young was Worm, and that's a squiggly sign, right? Worm. I squiggled a lot, and so
Not a fire sign.
that was
You
my
are an air
nickname.
sign. Nice try.
Oh, it's an air sign.
hmm
Okay, well, see, none of that makes any, and it's just like Kabbalah. It's just like the Kabbalistic tree of life. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But I could see where some people would find structure in that and try to be a better person from following some of those things. And I think the key there is just try to be a better person.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree. And if you're really a truth seeker, that's not where it ends for you. Like I don't see the problem with this Kabbalah stuff.
well,
I think God uses everything to get people to him. I see a problem if it's the end, but like you said, God, not everyone is chosen. So at least they have some kind of structure while they're struggling through the earth.
And if you go look at the link that I provided.
I can't click on it in chat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can't. If you would have put it here in private chat, I might have been able to, but I can't click on it to bring it up for us. Tell me his name channel and I can just go find it.
One of his conclusions is that what if there were a human who was so tuned into God that he could surrender the version of his life as he defines as good into the will of God. In other words, we all want what's best for us in life, right? You want to be the best person, the best version of yourself that you can be. Well, what if there was a person who surrendered all of that to the will of God? Even if it meant looking into the face of death. And Jesus did that, and he became the tree of life for all mankind by giving up what he wanted in life and accepting, the will of God, which was for him to come into the world and die a very cruel death on a tree, nailed to a tree. So the tree upon which Jesus dies becomes the tree of life. Just like for the three trees that we were talking about at the start. The one that wanted to be a tree that reached up, a tall tree that reached up into the heavens, pointed to God. And he became the cross.
I looked up Tree of Life. I don't know whose channel. But I can't click on links in chat. Let's see.
That's okay, man.
You don't remember the channel name?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well.
I just had the link posted in my notes and thought it was a good, you guys might get a lot out of that guy.
Satan, Mile. Satan uses deception.
He agrees with divinity about Adam and eternal life, that he didn't have eternal life before the tree of life.
Well, don't you? That's implied in the fact that you would have had to partake in the tree of life in order to have life, and they didn't.
Why else would there be a tree of life?
So then, why would you say that he had eternal life already?
Because I think I look at it in the reverse, that eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil brought death, and without death, there's life. So if there was no death, there was life. But he and I guess you would look at death as being more of a natural part of life, even in a perfect creation. That there would have been death.
I think that's hard.
Seasons, whatever.
Yeah, because the serpent is in the garden. And so that is also a part of what God would say a relationship with him includes, and also includes choosing, an act of choosing from this tree, which obviously wasn't something that was just happening willy-nilly, because he blocked it so that there couldn't be no action toward it once the sin entered. Yeah, that's a lot. I think it's all spiritual, for the record. I think that's all a spiritual story, and Jesus came to, explain that to us. Get back to the tree in the garden.
I think he's got like 3 signs.
My two are both.
Is that middle one the goat? Looks like a goat.
Mine are, maybe it's Taurus.
It looks, Vicky, like you maybe have studied this a little too much. I think Vicky has studied this a little too much. Vicky, don't get trapped, man. It's a trap.
She loved Jesus. Don't you worry.
Okay.
It's not what goes in, it's what comes out, and she loved Jesus.
Well, it's kind of hard, it's like the personality test. When you're trying to figure yourself out, especially as a teenager or a young person or whatever, you try to figure out who you are and where you fit. And I could see where you could get, you're wanting to find structure, and you're wanting to say, oh, well, I'm born in, whatever, and this is who I am. And, It gives you some structure to look at, and it might be a good thing. But I think it's a trap.
It's I mean, yeah, I can see that.
Did you have some other things? Did you want to look in Revelation at the weird tree with 12 fruits?
I mean, we talked about it. I could read it. It says, growing on either side of the river of the tree of life, which flows from the throne of God and the Lamb, the tree bears 12 kinds of fruit, yields its fruit each month, and its leaves are for the healing of the nation.
Healing of the nations.
That's big. Whoever has ears, let them hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To the one who is victorious, I will give the right to eat from the tree of life, which is in the paradise of God.
Mm-hmm. And it's a beautiful thought, but if you look too closely at it, you can get confused.
That's victory on the cross. To those who are victorious, to the one who perseveres, the one who loves me till the end, it doesn't lean into their own understanding, to the one who doesn't run from death, who doesn't shrink from death, doesn't love their life so much that they're going to fight for what is fleeting and what was always going to perish. Those are the ones that will look on the tree and receive its fruit. And it says it all through. We started in Genesis. We hit a little Proverbs. Not all of them. You should research it on your own. And all the way through Revelation. And everything in this Bible talks about the living waters and the tree of life in one way or another. We didn't even get into Romans, other shows we have. I think it's really big. I'm not once saved, always saved in the same way Squabble is. But I think we can be grafted out of the tree of life.
Well, let's figure Vicky out, man. She's really telling us a lot here in chat. But so you've had the 3 different husbands, right? Who were all the same sign, but they were completely different people, right? That's what I want to get at, is that one of them was not so good, or maybe 2 of them were not so good, but the third one, he's a pretty good guy, right?
Does it show us like she's attracted to some characteristics in that sign in men?
Oh, is that what it is? That she's attracted.
She married 3 of them, even if they're assholes. Whatever it is that makes them not assholes, she really into. And her kids are all different, so they all have the same sign mom and the same sign dad, and they came out different. So whatever that's supposed to. But it's like I said, it's more like where you were born. What was this guy doing at the time you were born? Because God
what was this guy doing?
God is the architect of that all. When He breathed life into us, I think it mattered to Him. Where was the rest of my creation in this moment? Because that moment is so important to Him. For all of us, 8 billion times to 7, or however many there have been and will be. I think those moments are that important to Him, that He's like, I want Saturn here, I want Venus here, I want this moon here, I want this type of energy. And we don't have to believe in it or put any stock in it. I just think that God is so good that He's paying that much attention.
We don't have to believe in it or have any stock in it. But guess what Squab has in his house sitting on his mantelpiece?
Star of David.
An amethyst, which is the birthstone for February, which is when Squab was born. So
there you go. See, that's like the pictures of God too. You trust yourself.
He doesn't worship the rock. He doesn't think that the rock has special energy.
Yes.
But he does have one in his house.
Just in
case. On his mantelpiece.
That's your gold amethyst calf.
Amethyst. It's like an idol. I gotta remove it, man. I gotta throw it in the garbage.
I'm serious. When your church people come to your house after you go home to be with the Lord, they're gonna be like, man. Oh my gosh, the crystals and the pictures of God and the weapons, and holy crap, man. He's not who we thought he was.
Hex.
But he was so clean on the outside.
Yeah. Look, he's got a picture of Jesus in his house.
Damn,
and he's got the Mormon, he's got Joseph Smith up on his wall, man.
Thank God the world isn't going to judge us, right, Squabble?
Oh man, I'm telling you, man. Woo.
Yeah, we'd have been condemned over and over and over again.
And he's got one of those. Do you have a TV in your house, Divinity?
Yes.
You know, there are a lot of Christians who aren't allowed to watch TV.
Oh.
Or not allowed to have a TV in their house.
I wonder why.
because it's evil.
Oh,
It's from the devil. That's why I'm
yeah.
not a member of. Well, I am actually. I I I closed out my Facebook account.
Mm.
10 years later, I go back there, and guess what? I'm still on there. I'm still on there. They won't let me
Internet is
leave.
forever. Yeah.
They won't let me leave, man. I still have a Facebook account, even though I closed it out 10 years ago, man. Ah,
Vicky says she
so
just loves stones, and everyone she just picks up off the ground, even though a lot around
they're
here are
beautiful.
giant crystal rocks, and
I
they are
tried to give.
beautiful.
I got some. I'm not going to mention her name either, but you know who she is. I got stones for her kids. I got a lot of rocks. When I got one of these junior geology kits or whatever, where it's
Hmm.
got all these rocks. It's like a it's like a study course. Where
Yeah.
your kids, if you homeschool your kids, they can get educated. By
Hmm.
studying. I think Divinity was really into this at one time. I was
My
going to
kid
even
still has
send
the set.
I was going to even send her kids one.
He loves it. The National Geographic. Are you talking about the
Oh
little?
yeah,
Yeah, they're
yeah,
great. Mhm.
yeah. Well, eventually, and I bought one for each of her kids, and eventually I gave them away to homeschoolers who were so happy to receive them,
Oh
and they
yeah.
took pictures of them doing all the studies with. Oh, they just loved it. So it was like a blessing. She refused to let me send them to her
Aw,
kids, but so I sent them, to homeschoolers who were just so happy. They were so happy. So it was
that
like,
is super
it
cool.
was a win-win. Um,
That's super cool. Yeah, we're about to
but yeah,
do a solar
I love
system
I
one.
love those rock things, man. All the different the tiger's eyes and all the different things, and
Rocks are
where they
dope
come
because they've
from.
been around forever. Like, if I wasn't gonna be a tree, what kind of rock would I be? That's also a very
What
good
rock would you be?
question.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know because there are so many good ones.
Mm. You would be a diamond, Divinity. I can see right
Oh,
away.
I'd
You
be
would
a
be
piece of
a
coal.
diamond girl.
I didn't even consider that as a rock. Wow,
Yeah.
I'm broken. I'm
They say
thinking
it's not. They say it's
beginnings.
not the most precious one anymore. It's still the hardest one, I think, but aren't don't. I think emeralds and rubies are both more valuable now, I think, than diamonds.
Wow. My
Yeah.
birthstone is an emerald. I'm a big fan of obsidian. It's sharper than
Because it's
surgical
black.
steel. I
Oh,
love black people. I mean
oh, well,
stones.
stones. Yeah.
But I don't know what my favorite rock is. I'm obsessed with all of them. And my dog Lucky, uh,
Ada rock?
yes, he keeps doing it. Okay, so I have
He
these.
eats rocks?
Yeah, he eats everything. He's crazy. But I have found these pumice, this black pumice in my
Hmm.
yard. And I think it's because there was a volcano that erupted like thousands of years ago, about maybe like 40
In
miles
your
from here. And this,
backyard? Yeah.
no, yeah, one day I'm going to get a birth of a volcano. Not yet, though. Anyways, I found all
Don't you
this
don't you have
pumice.
those La Brea pits down there?
The
Don't you
tar
have
pits
like a
are more
tar
south of
pits
me.
lying around?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm more north. I'm talking about like the volcanoes in Inyo, um, County. Like anyways, there, my dog has figured out how to like sniff this stuff. It kind of has a sulfur smell, which means fart. It smells like a
Oh,
fart. Anyways,
um,
it's distinct. And he's been digging in the dirt and coming out with these pieces of pumice
stinky
from the
rocks.
ground. I love it. It's super cool. I was following him around to try to get him to take me to his pumice collection. I can't get him to
Well,
do it.
that's their biggest sense is their smell. So they really love smelly stuff.
Yeah,
Ah.
he's obsessed.
Mm.
I wish I knew. I wish I knew where he was finding it because I'm just as obsessed with these rocks as he is. We got to work
Well,
together.
I think they usually name volcanoes after women, don't they? All volcanoes and
Really?
well, they used to hurricanes and volcanoes. Didn't they used to all be named after women?
I did not know
And
that.
rightly so.
Mm-mm. Let me find out. Are volcanoes named
Named after women.
after women?
I think one of them's named after
Holy
Pele.
Christ, it says yes.
Yes. Hmm. It's like when
What?
we were talking about hope, and a certain somebody wanted to say that's an elephant. He said it right to her face. That's an elephant. He thought I was trying to gaslight him. we'll talk about that when I get into talking about what I feel bad about this week. But what was I going to say? Oh, you brought up the pachyderms. They used to be out. They used to be pigs. You brought up the word pachyderm, and it used to be a classification in the old school, back when Squab was born.
Didn't it mean thick
They were
skin?
pigs. They were pigs.
I think that could be a type of. I don't know. I don't know anything. Okay, so
Oh,
it also
no.
says hurricanes were also originally named after women. Is it
Named
because
after
of the
women.
destruction? Woman is
Yeah.
chaos in the Bible,
Women
which
are
is funny
terrible, man.
because I would say, like I said before, God isn't just three men's. It's the embodiment of feminine and masculine, which is why the tree of life is
Vicky-
important in the Kabbalah
Vicky
side,
brought
but
up-
whatever.
Vicky brought up ships. Ships was the same way, which really gives me the question when you talk about the Enterprise. Is that the oldest profession? The Enterprise was a woman.
Why are ships named after women?
They're named after women.
It says they were once
Until you
dedicated
get
to
it.
goddesses, and when belief in goddesses waned, they were named after important mortal women. Way to ensure safe
Yeah.
voyage.
Yeah, Loretta Swit died. She passed away. I was watching MASH yesterday. They had a thing on every commercial. They would break into in remembrance of Loretta Swit. Hot Lips passed away.
So it says, it is generally accepted that ships are referred to as she or her due to language evolution from the Latin word for ships, navis, being feminine. So because the word was feminine, and navy, is that where we
That's
get
not
navy?
That's not why. It's because
the
men
internet
built
says.
them. Men built them and said, "This is Beth."
Yes, the house of everything. Well, I am so enlightened. Do you want to do anything you feel terrible about so that we can get on with our day? We've been here for
Yeah,
Let me
I've
see.
got a lot of terrible stuff, man. I don't know if you're ready for it or not, but
I don't know either. Let me just move some things around and see what happens.
did we get through all the tree stuff?
I did. Did you?
I guess so. I don't know. There's always stuff you can talk about. Trees feature pretty prominently throughout the Bible. You had every time something happens, it's by a tree. So you've got when Jacob's ladder, that was by a tree. Every time something like that happens, especially with one of the patriarchs,
Jonah was by the tree. It withered.
It's by a tree. They even named the tree, and stuff like that. And put up a rock, and I don't know. But yeah.
That is interesting. That God is the controller of the trees.
Yeah, have I got the terrible stuff up yet, man?
It's here we go. Somewhere.
It's not in the loop anymore.
Don't worry, I can figure this
out.
Oh
man, I feel so sky. Oh, there it is. So star. I feel like I'm the star of the show. There's all these stars and lights on me, and it's just terrible. That's a lot of pressure, man. A lot of pressure on the squab. But yeah, the first thing was last week. I don't know what I was thinking, because I believe the scriptures. The scriptures are true, and I believe that it's most of it's literal. When I said Moses was on peyote. Peyote is from Mexico and South Texas. It's nowhere near the promised land. So Moses was not on peyote. What is that sound? Are you printing something out?
Can you hear my computer?
Yeah, I can hear your computer doing stuff. What is it, working extra hard or something?
It's been doing it all morning.
Have you got one of those little robots that goes around the floor and cleans everything? That's what it sounds like.
No, I wish I did.
That's what it sounds like. It sounds like a cleaning robot. But yeah, I said Moses was on peyote, and that is not true. If Moses was on anything, it would likely have been the Egyptian blue lotus. The Egyptian blue lotus, because peyote was from Mexico and South Texas. So I mixed up my hemispheres or something like that.
You just know Moses was on something because he was talking to a burning bush.
He seemed like he was on something, but it was not peyote. So I was felt kind of bad about that. It was probably Egyptian blue lotus.
Kind of a badass. I would definitely apologize to him today.
Yeah. And then I said, I accused. It's been a couple of weeks back, so you have to remember back. I don't know if Divinity can remember that far back, but
We'll try.
I said that chat was jealous because it was all about being a tulip or a daisy, but I wanted to make clear that we accept all flowers, uh, even some very pretty weeds, like chickweed or Queen Anne's lace or clover. Clover is very pretty. You can get white clover or you can get crimson clover. Um, Morning glories are very pretty, and daisies. So it's just not. You don't have to choose just one flower. We accept all flowers here. You don't have to be a tulip or a daisy. It could be somewhere in between.
But it's helpful because then we know how to label you and how to box you into a corner. Pick a
And
damn
then,
flower.
what do you mean? That's not a way to talk about
Oh,
flowers. Flowers
I'm
are
just
beautiful,
joking.
but they are cursed. All of creation was cursed. When Adam fell, it wasn't just him, man. All of creation was cursed. So you got thorns and thistles and everything else coming up now. That was my college flower, was the thistle. That was my college flower. My college had a flower. I don't know if
I believe
any
it.
of you have been to colleges, and my college had a college flower that was the thistle. It's from Scotch Irish stuff, but that was their flower. It's a very pretty flower, but it's a thistle. Um, and then we talked. There was this one guy. I'm not going to mention his name because he doesn't like that. He was talking about gaslighting. He said, "Squab, you're gaslighting me." Let me tell you, it's when you've forgotten that you remembered that you forgot a thing, that you remembered that you forgot. That's not gaslighting. That's getting old. When you forget stuff that you remember that you forgot, that's not gaslighting. That's getting old.
When you forget stuff that you remember you forgot. Wait, that's my life. Are you sure you don't smoke Blue Lotus?
Well, it could be something that I eat or drank but I'm just saying that it was that's an element of getting old, and some of you one day you may know that it's not meant to be gaslighting. It's just that you forget that you forgot, that you remembered something that you forgot that you remembered.
Yeah, it's innocent.
Damn.
But they're perfect, Squab. Everyone else is perfect. So we just have to actually give them grace for their perfection.
I forgot, I couldn't remember who the greatest actor in all the world was. You guys
John
all
Wayne.
know who. No, that's what you said last time.
I must be
It's not.
right.
It's not John Wayne. It's the other guy, Christian Bale,
Oh,
the
good
greatest
Lord.
actor in all the world. And then
You
I
should
forgot.
be feeling terrible for that, for real.
I forgot what who Ouch Mau Mau, the alien thing that was like powered. It came through the solar system, and it was under its own power, and they thought it was like aliens, and it's gone now. But it came and it left. It was like a long cigar like thing. It was the name Ouch Mau Mau means scout. It's a Hawaiian name for scout.
Oh.
And that's what they named this interstellar. It was the first confirmed interstellar object.
It went to Hawaii?
Well, no, it just came through our solar system, and
why'd the Hawaiians name it?
They discovered it. The telescope down in Hawaii.
I just know said that the Garden of Eden was probably Hawaii, and now this.
It was like 85 times as far away as the moon was, but that's pretty close. That's pretty close in astronomical, whatever.
That's that's just a guess.
But I couldn't
what sucks about Science Squab is that they tell us that. They're like, it's 85 times the distance away. And then like in 15 years, you'd be like, yeah, we updated our measurements and everything is better and it's 10 times far away. And we just have to be like, oh, okay, now you know. And how do we know that they ever actually know? They never freaking know.
My nemesis is back, and he's saying gaslight. You gaslit me. You try to tell me that an elephant. Look it up. Look it up, Divinity. Pachyderm. See what it says about pachyderm. How in the old school, back when Squab was born, pachyderms were pigs. Pigs were pachyderms. They were the same. They were the same.
Pigs
forgot
not
how
considered pachyderms. Pig
I
are not
forgot how you
considered.
brought it up,
Historically,
but
they
you
were
had-
sometimes included under the umbrella of term pachyderm, but this is rarely
There
done
you
now,
go.
even in casual
Sometimes.
usage. Scientifically,
Sometimes.
they are classified as artiodactyls and are distinct from the core group of elephants, rhinos, hippos, and
That's now though, right?
something
That's
else.
now. But see, back
Now,
when
yeah.
Squab was born, it's ageism. It's ageism, Darth. Remember, back
What were
when
you
we're talking about back when Squab was born. This
In
is when Squab
1950,
learned.
pigs were
This
sometimes
is what
included
Squab
under
learned
the
in
term
science class.
pachyderm. Wow, you're correct. In the
We had
50s. That
9
wasn't even
planets.
that long ago.
We had 9 planets. Pluto was a planet. When I was born and when I was in school, Pluto was a planet, and pigs were pachyderms.
But does that mean elephant?
Elephants were pachyderms and pigs were pachyderms. They were both
That doesn't mean a
pachyderms.
pig is an elephant.
Well,
You are
Darth-
correct, though. A pig used to be a pachyderm.
Darth may be right, but I think he's looking down on me because of my age. Just because I learned stuff in science class that was wrong, that we've since discovered that was so wrong. That was so wrong. That's what I was taught in school, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I've gaslit somebody, and gaslighting is wrong, but I think it's more about being confused as an elderly gentleman. Don't you think, Divinity? Did I lose Divinity?
No, I wasn't listening. Yeah, but I
Oh.
probably agree.
I thought I lost you, man. I thought I gaslit everybody and they left me.
You lit me on flames with your gaslighter.
Well, I apologize.
Well, you don't have to be sorry for most of that.
I do, man. I have to be sorry for it and own it and apologize for it and try to do.
You're forgiven.
And try to do better.
50 Hail Marys and 73 Our Fathers.
The face paint people at the Renaissance Fair probably thought the same thing. I thought that she should have equal treatment, as a fellow pig. And they said, no, she's got a big nose and she's got a big ears and she's got to pay twice as much. And
Yeah,
I thought that
just
was,
like her shirts cost twice as much because there's twice as much fabric
twice
to
as
use.
much paint. Yeah.
But that's the thing. Should the fats have some kind of equal treatment while the skinnies have to pay for it? Because someone has to pay for it.
I don't know, because I agree that if you're so big that you can't fit in a seat in an airplane, you should have to pay for 2 seats, right? I agree with that. I agree with that.
If you're taking up the second seat, then you bought
up 2 seats, you should have to pay for the 2 seats.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. We've got a lot to learn as a society about people who are different than us. There's an average of what people are like, and some people don't fit into that average, and we have to make special rules for those people, right? It's like the handicapped or, whatever. I know this guy, he's just got the one leg. I don't try to treat him any different than I do other people who have 2 legs. I love him just as much. So I don't know. You tell me what's the right way to be.
Listen, I think, how you say you love your gay neighbors?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think you should love Neil Patrick Harris the same.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, just love them because God loves them in their sin. Not condoning their sin because you don't condone their sin, but if you can love your neighbors, you could also love Neil Patrick Harris.
Love the sinner, but don't love the sin.
Correct.
Okay.
Because you love me, right? And I sin, I just don't do it in gay ways all the time.
Hug the trees while you can hug the trees.
Yes.
But don't do other
careful.
stuff. Don't
Be
do other
careful
stuff
which
with
tree
the
you
tree.
hug.
Just hug the tree. Okay.
You could do that.
Don't get carried away when it comes to loving trees. Just love them the regular way, right?
Regular way, yeah. You don't have to
regularly.
worry about if their fruit is bad. If you hug them enough, their fruit will turn good. Ooh, what if that were a thing?
Well,
Water them with sweet, sweet love water.
just know that
Wait.
when Squab gaslights, I'm not saying that I don't gaslight because obviously I do. But when Squab gaslights, he's right in there with all the rest of you folk. He's not speaking to you as though you were on more insane than he is, or trying to cloud your judgment or anything. Um, he doubts himself every bit as much as you may doubt if you were gaslit. We're all in the same boat. We're in the same boat.
You mean I'm getting through to you on the free will thing?
Yeah,
What?
yeah.
Squab.
And then, this person is right. And they had a complaint against me that I'm always talking over people, and I do. I talk over people, and I'm sorry. I tried to turn down my mic. I don't know if it's I can't hear myself on the broadcast right now, so I don't know if it's lower or not. But I did turn my mic down, but I don't know if that comes across or not. But
It
I
sounds
think
great to me. I can't hear me though, so I'm in your
I
boat.
think I think when this person and myself were both on panel together, their mic was soft and my mic was loud. So it seems as though I'm being a cad because I'm talking over everybody. I'm so loud. I don't mean to. I'm a boomer. I don't know anything. I don't know how this thing works, man. I don't know anything about mics. So if my mic is loud, it's not because I'm purposefully trying to talk over people. I just do because I'm a boomer.
Well, I feel like you've apologized enough for that
No,
stream.
I haven't apologized enough, man.
But I would like to point out that long before that stream happened, you were doing this. It's just terrible. This is what I feel sorry about. So this is
Oh,
sort of
terrible.
proof that you do recognize you're not the smartest person in the room, that you are able to
Yeah,
self-reflect and come back and adjust where you were wrong. And I think that's,
I illust-
while you might have got a lot of shit, there are super bonuses to how and who you are. And I think that's fine. You're using that Kabbalah tree of life, even if you reject it, because you're working on self to help be a better product, better tree in the garden or whatever.
I illustrated that last week too, or week before last. See, I don't even know what time it is.
Me either.
But yeah, uh, Divinity brought up this part from the Masoretic, from the Dead Sea Scrolls, and it had words that were left out, and she did so much better a job reading it and comprehending what was there than Squab did. Squab didn't know what was going on. He kept jumbling stuff up, and but Div is an older soul than even Squab, and she understood the Dead Sea Scrolls. She understood just what they were trying to say, just as though she was in a scene, one of the people living there. And I was terrible at it. I was terrible. But Div used her female part of her brain, and she understood it better than Squab did.
Wow. Oh, thanks. Well, I think Chad is happy. Have you done enough forgiving
Well,
or
maybe,
asking for forgiveness
maybe.
or terrible stuff? Look at your list. I hope you're done with this. This is my favorite part of the show, but
But
I
it's time
hope
for it to be over.
you release
Shut
it.
up, shut up, Squab. I did have in my notes that it was the anniversary of Star Wars, but I think that was last week, 1977. I think last week in 1977, Star Wars came out. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened today. I don't know what today is, or I forgot to write any of that stuff down, man.
Yeah. It's definitely Saturday, the last day of May. We've
I
made it.
I don't think it's Hitler's birthday, so we can be happy
No.
about that.
That's April 20th.
Yeah. I just say, Darth, I apologize. I'm from the South. The South and the North have always had issues, and it's your culture and my culture, and the two are very hard to mix. I will say that Div is on my side. She's a Southerner. Los Angeles is part of Georgia.
Oh.
That is not gaslighting. That's a fact. So
I could Google it, but
it's
not
true.
funny.
Georgia was given a land grant from sea to shining sea, from sea to sea, from coast to coast, which makes Los Angeles a part of Georgia. So at one time, at least, in the history, maybe back in Squab's day, maybe a little bit before, uh, Los Angeles was part of Div lived where Div lived in Georgia. Div was part of
Yeah.
Georgia. So
I do love peaches.
we're both Southerners.
That
Yeah.
seems about right.
Eat a peach.
I've been to Georgia once. It wasn't great. You guys need a little more government regulation on your roads.
Well, your sister is on the north side, which is where the racists live.
Oh, shit.
She is in Alpharetta. That is race. That is. I don't know if that's where she lives, but it's on the north side.
She's
that
in
is,
Martinez.
That is
Excuse me.
white. That is white central, man.
She's
up
in
there.
Martinez. Is that White Central?
I don't know, or Martinez. I never even heard of that.
It
She
don't
might be
sound
way
White
up there
Central.
somewhere.
Well, she's by Augusta. Is that way up there somewhere?
Augusta. That's way over on the on the east coast of Georgia. That's by the Savannah River. That's where they play golf. That's Golf Central.
That's where she does. She does the PGA Tour every year.
Really?
She goes. Yes.
Wow. I thought she was in Atlanta.
No, Augusta.
Wow.
Augusta. So less racist.
Yeah, less racist.
Ooh,
They're
good
just
for her.
they're just elitist.
Oh shit, she has to
Because
deal with
of the-
other stuff.
LPGA or whatever the golf. Yeah,
Because of the golfers. Oh
The-
man.
they're golfers. Golfers are rich people, man. Although I was a putt champion at one time.
We used to have a miniature golf course here when I was a kid. We don't have one anymore.
Yeah, I was a miniature golf champion at one time. I won one year or something in the summertime or something.
Good job. Congratulations. Do you have a trophy?
Thank you. No. I may have
Hmm.
gotten a trophy, but those things are long gone, I think.
Well, I think we're done here, Squabble.
Well,
Do you have
thank you.
Any, thank you. But do you have any ideas of what we could talk about next week?
No, I didn't give next date because I didn't know we were going to do this week. I didn't know what
me
was going
either.
on.
Me
For
either.
those of you who don't know, sometimes we'll communicate a little beforehand, but sometimes we just show up and hope that the other person's going to be here.
Yeah, that's how it's been.
We don't know. We don't know.
Yeah.
The odds were probably greater than not because I've been there this past week when Div has been talking about the Karen Reed show, on Rumble. So I've been there for that almost every day. I think every day.
Mhm.
And so odds were good that I was going to show up this morning, but we don't really know for sure. until
Well,
we-
I know you've told me Saturday you're free. So last
Yeah.
week when we tried to do Sunday, I was like, wait a
I-
minute, Squab's
I
not here.
made-
It's
I
Sunday.
made
Did I
time.
assume?
I made time for last Sunday, and
I'm sorry.
well, no, it's no big deal. Sometimes it's good to go to early stuff, and you get to see things that you don't ordinarily see and stuff. But it's no big deal.
Well, I do appreciate you.
In
a lot.
summertime, the sun comes up. I don't know how it is in California, but here in Georgia, the sun comes up earlier in the summertime than it does in the wintertime. So by 6 o'clock here, it's already light out.
Yeah.
So you're ready to start your day. I get up when the dog gets up. The dog sees the sun and says, "Up, it's time to get up." He's over here sleeping now, but I get up when the dog tells me to get up.
Dude, my dogs have been pissing me off. They come in my room and just wrestle in the morning. I'm like,
Take over.
really? So you're right. I think the sun comes out and they're like, oh crap, we slept in. But it's not. You did. It's just coming up earlier. Relax. Yeah, they're so lucky they're cute because they're frustrating.
And my dog didn't used to, but he's taken to barking at night now. So he goes out and finds something to bark at. I think deer wander through the yard and probably a cat that sleeps on the front porch, and there's other stuff happening outside at night, and the dog has got to tell him, what's going on, tell him what's what. I'm the boss here. Get off my
Yeah.
lawn. Yeah.
That's cute.
And he
That's super
pees
cute.
on everything.
That's not cute. I know my freaking dog, the 2 puppies are 9 months old and they are peeing on everything.
Oh man,
Holy crap. It's the worst. It's the worst.
you got to take them somewhere and train them. But let somebody else train them. Break them.
How? I got to figure out how to train them. Why are they doing this? It's like something about them thinking they're the alpha or something.
I thought you were into animal husbandry at one time. Didn't you have to train goats and chickens and stuff?
Listen,
You
I
just
never
let
did
'em-
the right thing,
You
apparently.
just let them wander wild and do their own thing.
I never had this many dogs. I never always had to be a pack leader before.
Mm,
I'm
yeah.
Prince's boss and I'm Izzy's boss, but the puppies are trying to be the boss of the other dogs. Do you know? It's like they have their own little struggle, like between them of who's going to be the next alpha or some shit. And I need to let them know that I'm never going to die because I know Jesus and I'm the boss.
Those puppies, when will they ever learn?
I can't say they
Maybe-
won't. I'm going to
Maybe
watch
if
some
you
Caesar
maybe
Milan.
if you ate one of them, just eat
I
one of them.
might put one of them down. You hear them? They're not happy with what you've said. But maybe I'll put one of them down in front. I'll Kirsty gnome one of them.
Darn,
Me
that's
after that.
terrible, man.
I
feel
think you're
like
right. It's too
I
late
feel
though
like
if I cut
now-
off their nuts.
I feel like now if I did that, I would be obligated to get those fake things that you can get now for the dogs that you snipped. You can get them fake things now, so that they don't feel they still feel, man. But yeah, look, they're
That would
bigger
be
than
kind of funny.
look. They're bigger than they used to be.
I could get them to drag on the ground, just huge ones.
Ah, man.
Well, I'm gonna Google it up. Like I said, I want to watch some Caesar Milan. I'll learn about how to pop them in the face, and I'll have to figure out how to be a pack leader because I don't want them to fight because they're still puppies, like actual puppies. Like they're very timid. They want to please. They're very much learning right now, so I don't want it to go too far where I can't boss them around anymore.
Mm.
Maybe
nip
that's what I'll do today.
Nip it in the bud. If I never learned anything from Barney Fife, it was you have to nip it in the bud. Nip it
Question.
in the bud.
Do you know if they already start marking if getting them fixed will stop it, or is it too late by now? That's
I
what I'm
don't
kind of
know.
worried about. Because they
I
just
don't know
started.
anything about dogs.
Oh, okay.
I have had to be the guardian of every dog that has ever come into the family. I have never had a dog myself. It has never been my dog. Never, ever have I had a dog. I have just been the one that has had to take care of the dogs. So my brother had a dog. My sisters had like 3 dogs. Every time I'm the one that takes care of the dogs. I wouldn't have a dog if it was up to me. Although I am more of a dog person than a cat person. I wouldn't have a cat either.
You're very much like my sister. She's not a pet person, although she might probably rather have a cat. I just can't imagine not wanting an animal.
No.
I know they can be fixed at any time. My question was, will that stop their being territorial and marking?
That's probably why all the animals in the world, all the animals in the neighborhood love me. They just love me to death because I don't like them. I don't like them.
Is that
I
why
don't
they
like
like
animals. I don't like any of the animals. But, they like me, so there you go.
Are you really
you
the
mean?
grumpy old man on your street?
What do you mean say that quietly? No, I play with all the animals, but
And you do like them.
it was up to me. I would leave the animal to be their own person. Let them free. Let the birds be free, the squirrels, the chickmunks. I'm not going to put one of them in a cage. If you have a dog, it's like putting them in a cage.
That's fine, but you said
Just
you
let 'em be
don't like
free.
them.
Just let them be free. Well, I respect them. I respect their own, go your own way. You know,
You can go.
we
your
have we have the
own
cutest
way.
fox that comes through the neighborhood. You know, I don't know. He's probably foxes are always up to no good, man. So he's probably into up to no good, but he's so cute. But I'm not going to put him in a cage. I'm not going to try to capture the fox. You know,
Well, yeah, but you could still like the fox.
well,
You don't have to dislike
it
it.
doesn't have to be my pet.
Yeah, I don't think it does. But what about a dog? That's man's.
Why would
Well, you
you?
have a dog now.
Why would you name a cat after fruit, Darth? Cat's name
Cat's
is
name.
Orange. Why would you name a cat Orange, man? Aren't you glad he's a cat?
Then maybe that's why. Banana was taken. Your dog might hear you calling him a grumpy old man. Chain it to a tire. Mild. The fox? That's a good idea.
We're gonna have a talk with Mild. I'm telling you, man. 111. I don't know. I don't know.
And this isn't the mild version. Imagine it gets worse. You chain it to a tire, and then your dog runs around and he gets super strong.
I did train a cat on how I did. I probably shouldn't say this. You guys tell me if it's mean or not. I put the kitten in a paper sack and then dipped the paper sack into the pool to see how long it would take the cat to get out of the paper sack, to punch its way. Was that cruel, or is that just a part of life training?
Chat?
What do you say?
Are you serious? Did you really do that?
I put a kitten in a paper
God.
bag, dumped the paper bag in the pool, and got it wet to see how long it would take the cat to punch its way out of the wet paper sack. That's just a training tool, right? That's like training an animal.
I don't think so. I'm so glad you didn't have animals.
That's not being cruel to the animal. That's training the animal, right?
For what?
I don't know. To see how long, to see if it can punch its way out of the sack. Get out of a trap.
To live.
Yeah, it wants to get out of a trap. You have to train it how to, about life.
Oh no! I think this is a big red flag. I don't know about y'all, but this is
just like being. It's just like being in a car when the two kids are arguing in the back seat, and you say, "I will stop this car right here," and you stop it and make them get out of the car and drive off. That's not being cruel to the children.
My sister did that to my little sister one time. She left her. My sister was left at the corner of PCH and Harbor Island Drive in Orange County. My sisters never got along, and my one sister was making fun of the way the lady behind us smoked a cigarette, and my other sister was like, "Stop being a bitch, get out!" And so she gets out, and we speed away. I was like, "You can't just leave her in the city. We have to go back."
We have to go back.
Yeah,
oh,
we dysfunctional, mate. I wonder, are you here, Medic Mitchell? Do you remember that? It was Medic Mitchell who got left on the corner.
Oh, man. There was one time my brother and I were playing softball in the backyard, and I was the pitcher. He was the batter. He kept hitting me. Every time I would pitch the ball and he would hit it, he'd hit me with the ball. And I said, "You do that again, I'm going to hit you over the head with the bat." And I did. It broke the bat.
Oh, damn, squad.
He was fine. He was fine. But it broke the bat.
Then he's like John O'Keefe. He's made of steel.
That's brothers. That's how brothers are, man.
Mild says there's nothing wrong with the kitty bear.
We would argue and get into fights, and then Mom would put one of us on one side of the sofa and put one of us on the other, and we'd have to look at each other till we made up. And, it took maybe about a minute and a half. We were both giggling our heads off.
I don't know.
But that's how our fights were settled, was one had to go on one side. You had to hug. Yeah, men don't touch each other. We never had to touch each other.
I hated it. I hated the hugging part because I didn't want to touch them.
That's a girl
I know
thing.
It's a mom thing. Well, if whatever the fight was about, we had all these books on a shelf, and it was like these kids that had different lessons, like stealing or fighting or whatever the shit was. I don't know what the lessons were, but she made us read the damn book, and then we got locked in the bathroom together. I don't think she made it. I think if we didn't hug, she was like, "Then you guys can sit in there until you figure it out." It's like, damn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we really had to learn how to not hate each other publicly so Mom would believe it.
Mhm,
And then I
mhm.
don't know how you guys were as sisters when we were little. I was 2 years younger than he was. Okay. They dressed us both alike.
Yeah.
Everywhere we went, we were dressed alike. We had the
Mhm.
same little outfits everywhere we went together. We were dressed alike. Don't ever do that to
Yep.
kids. Don't ever do that to kids, man. Ah,
My mom did that to us. My sister is 18 months younger than me, so she's a couple years, almost 2 years. And everyone just decided we were twins. My mom dressed us
yeah,
alike.
we were twins.
Yeah.
We were
I
called
didn't mind it then, but
we were
it,
called Rusty and Dusty, and he was both of them. He was both Rusty and Dusty. He's still called Rusty to this day. But we were called Rusty and Dusty, but
that
both
reminds me of
Rusty and Dusty was him.
who were you?
I wasn't called anything. The
Oh.
best nickname I had was Worm. I'm telling you, I was the middle child.
I was gonna say the
All the
middle
stuff that
child
middle
every
children
time.
have, I was the middle child, man.
They
Ah,
didn't bother to name me. I sent a picture to my mom the other day. I was going through my computer, and it was a picture from when we were vacationing years ago. My uncle is in, and he's like 20 years old, and I know she's been really talking to him lately. So I sent her the photograph of all of us having dinner, and I said, "Send it to Uncle B." And she's like, "Wow, that's amazing. How do you have this?" And either way, I was like, it was from Tahoe this year, blah, blah, blah. I said, in that trip, I rode back home with Uncle Brian. It was like it's at least 6 hours. And when we got to where we were going, he opens up the car door, he gets out and he looks at me, he goes, "Oh, you're here. I didn't know you were here this whole time."
oh,
Yeah,
like an
everyone forgets
afterthought.
about me. I'm just an
Ah,
afterthought.
man.
Middle child syndrome forever.
Mm.
I'm also nosy,
And
so it was like I just was listening
you
to
know
the
how that
adults.
translate that translates into, so when you get old, guess what you do?
I don't know.
You
What does that
color your
mean?
hair blonde
Oh,
so that you'll stick out, so that you'll be noticed different from your other sisters.
yeah, that's what I did.
It's for attention. It's for attention, Deb.
Yeah, this is my
That's
attention
why
seeking behavior.
that's the psychological root behind it. It looks
Notice me,
beautiful.
notice me, notice me.
Notice me. Yeah,
Oh, it's
that's why.
working.
Because
You notice me
when you were little, they ignored you. Yeah.
every single time. We're
Plus
gonna have
you
to
were
do a show
born.
on this.
Plus you were born under an obsidian stone, whatever month that is. I don't know.
That's Emerald, and it's the best one you said. And
Emerald.
I'm glad you said that, because when you said you're the middle child, it's like the equivalent of saying Venus was in the sky when I was born. It's saying like there's
Mm,
something
mm.
extra about my personality because of circumstance, which is just epigenetics, which is actually a real thing.
It's a real thing.
Epigenetics, yeah, like twins raised in separate environments will exhibit different traits.
Mm.
Epi is the environment, I guess. I don't know if epi really means environment, but it is a real thing. You could Google it.
It's what joins the pigs and elephants in the same family.
Exactly. That's what makes pigs at elephants. The end. All right. Well, we'll figure out what we're gonna do next week. Come
It'll
back
be
and hang out
something.
with us.
It'll be something glorious, man. It'll be something glorious from the Bible that
Amen.
we'll discover together, and we'll look at. You know, I don't know.
It'll be something good. Something good. And June is
Something
Pride Month,
good.
so Pride goes before the fall. Maybe we'll talk about deadly sins.
We already talked about. Didn't you and
I
Doug talk
know.
about deadly sins?
We could talk
Yeah.
about. I think I've done 2 shows or 3 about it now.
Oh wow!
I
All
will
sins.
think about it.
Kids, all sins are deadly. If you sin, you die. That was the promise
So are
of God.
elephants not kosher? What
Oh,
say you,
boy.
Squab?
Oh boy. Job done well. Oh man, you were really pressing us on this stuff. And I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I would go no.
I'm going to say that elephants are an unclean animal.
Yeah.
Is what I'm going to say. Now I don't know for sure, so don't think I'm gaslighting anybody.
Come back next week and we'll
I'm
tell
going
you.
to say
truth.
that we're not allowed to eat elephants. That's what I'm gonna say. That's how I'm taking a stand. So
Is kosher just about eating, or can you like not have kosher? Are there like kosher pets and shit like that, or just
I think it's
foods?
just eating. I think it's just
Okay, yeah,
eating.
then we're gonna go with no on the elephant. Thank you for your input. We are about ready to leave, so it was good to see you. If you want to hit the like button, that would be appreciated because I
Oh,
see
it's
you're
so
over on
glad to
YouTube.
have chat with us today. We had a lot of different people show up,
It
and
was nice seeing you.
and we're grateful for you guys being here and helping us out. And if you have some questions about the scriptures that you want to throw past Div and I, just put it just send a word to somebody and we'll talk about it. We're not shy.
Lepste's Gaming Laws has a great comment. Says no, elephants are not considered kosher in Jewish dietary laws, or kashrut require land animals to both chew their cud and have split hooves to be kosher. There you
Squab
go.
is right. Squab is right, man. Listen to the squab.
Congratulations on that.
Listen to
All
the
right.
squab.
Yes, come back next week to see if we were actually wrong, and we will be begging your forgiveness while we talk about Jesus. So thanks for hanging out. We will see you.
Thank
Oh,
you,
I
Div.
almost did a Karen Reed outro. Thank you,
Thank you, Div
Squabble.
and chat. Yeah. We're
Yeah,
going to
thank you,
see
Chad.
who are we going to see tomorrow? Oh, it's not tomorrow. It's Monday.
No, yeah.
Who's
If
coming
you
up tomorrow? Who's coming up Monday?
Monday on the Karen Reed trial, which I am streaming on my Rumble channel, every second of it. I don't know. I think it's gonna be.
You think we'll
I don't
start right
really-
away with the? You think we'll start right away with the Proctor friend if it's allowed? No.
Right. I don't think. I mean, I don't think so. I have no idea. I was really hoping to see the Crash, the Arkham guys, and more about that. So hopefully that happens, and once they get through this mess.
I do think they're going to call more witnesses than they did the first trial.
Do you know that lady that was sitting there, Kelly Devers?
No.
Did you see the lady at the very
No.
end of the day? She stood up and they said,
I saw her who
whatever.
had been there all day, and she said, "Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, come back."
I was guessing that is a person related to Brian Higgins, somebody he worked with that he shared his relationship with Karen with. I might have said this yesterday when we were live. But if that's the case, then it is going to be more juicy couple of days than maybe I thought. Maybe they'll talk about, because they're clearly going to have a week to frame this around Brian Higgins. That's their guy. I don't even think they're going to bring up Chloe or Cora or whatever I don't. So yeah, come visit us this week. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of sitting down and not getting fat. That's my big goal, is not to get fatter. And I have about a week, maybe 2 for jury watch. So come hang out with us. Encourage us to do squats.
Div has really done her homework on this too. In fact, she's put us on a back burner, I think, a little bit on the Bible study, just so she can concentrate on the Karen Reed trial and getting justice for this poor girl who has really been dragged through the mud and lost all her money.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I want justice for John O'Keefe. I don't care if Karen did it. If Karen did it, then I'm willing to be like, damn, she did it. But we're just not there. And I love justice. It was my first love. And God is my new first love, but human me loves earthly justice. It's wonderful.
It's good when it can go right, huh? It's good.
It is good when it goes right. Yeah. Sometimes it's good when it goes wrong. I mean, it's just such a fun little piece of yarn to unwind. So yeah, come hang out with us. In the meantime,
thank you.
Yeah, I love you guys, and we'll see you on Monday.